Welcome back to the Comics Aficionados, live right here on Thinking Critical YouTube. We are still waiting for one panel member, but I imagine EVS will show up when it feels like it. I imagine he'll be here in short time. But we do have a great panel to go with EVS this week. Who else? Wait, first up, I do want to say to all my my Filipino friends out there, happy Independence Day. That is obviously tomorrow, so hope you have a good time celebrating that. And we've got Yule Carter, the proprietor of Fantastic Comics in Berkeley, California. How you doing, Yule?
I'm wonderful. It's a little warm out here, so when I finally open the store today, it should be pretty hot.
How did your Star Wars thing go? Was there lots of people there that were upset about Star Wars?
No, it was a pretty calm chat. I had a really good conversation with my buddy Rick, and I watched his whole 3-hour, 40-minute movie about how the special edition Star Wars is, that he made, Lucas, why they're very important. And it was a good conversation. I liked it.
There you go. You got any more big conversations coming up?
Yeah, but this is a secret one right now. I've got to me, a big comic book creator will probably be on my show soon.
Well, very nice. Definitely keep people informed when that happens. Who else we got here? We've got Gabe from Weird Science DC and Comical Opinions. How you doing, Gabe?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Wes, for having me. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to talking about some comics.
Absolutely. You got anything special going on? You got any stories that were just published or anything?
Might have an interview coming up that could be with a bigger name creator. We'll see how that goes. I'm not quite sure if that's going to come off yet or not. But actually, this week coming up is a little light on the small and mid-sized publisher in the indie scene. So we'll see what comes out of that. I have some suspicion that some interesting things are going to pop up, but we'll see.
Very nice. Who else we got? We got Josh McDonald, the Batman historian, the DC aficionado. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well, Wes. How are you, man?
I'm doing fantastic. What's going on in Texas? It's still hot?
It's hot as balls. So when Yule's like, oh, it's a little hot here, I'm like, okay, when you say hot, is it like 80s? Because we're 100 plus for the next week.
It's a dry heat, Josh. It's not even humid.
Here?
If it's inland, I bet there's some 100-degree places, but
no.
Don't worry about that.
I'm in East Texas. It is very humid here.
I've had hotter or anything.
I've had hotter.
Yeah.
I've had hotter too, but it still sucks when you like walk outside and
I can tell you right now, when I was in was it Abu Dhabi, it was like fuck.
Oh yeah,
it was not a cool place to be in the summer. I can tell you that. Who else we got? We got Doc. Last but not least, how you doing, Doc?
Well, I'm not last because Ethan.
Well, Ethan don't show up.
Ethan doesn't do schedules apparently. I mean, there's a lot of jokes here about that, but we'll leave that for later. I love the guy. Well, I like the guy ish, but yeah, no. But hey, welcome everybody. You're not going to get to see me next week because I'm going to be in LA.
Doc's going to Hollywood.
Yep.
Oh, again.
Yeah, I'm out in LA next week. So you're not going to get to see my pretty face.
Your avatar.
Yes, my pretty avatar. What the fuck do you know? I am nothing but a giant floating bloody gums and teeth. That's what my head looks like.
Doc, you're just a big teddy bear. That's all.
That's what it is.
Well, there's some sort of bear.
Fitting for Pride Month.
I know. You're welcome.
I do want to give a shout out and congratulations to my good friends Tim Lim, Mark Pellegrini, and Doug Ertz on the success of Black Ops Common America Soul Fighter. Things already over 50,000 within the first day, I believe. So we should have Tim on the channel in the very near future, so that'll be exciting. So let's get right into it. EVS will show up when it shows up. We're going to talk about a lot of DC stuff. We're going to hit some Fantastic Four because we know he's a big Fantastic Four fan as well. But let's hit the big comic book that came out this week. We had DC Comics Dark Crisis #1. Obviously, this follows up on Justice League #75 and Justice League Road to Dark Crisis #1. So, Gabe, you were completely enthralled by Dark Crisis #1, huh?
Wait a minute. I got to take another shot before I talk about Dark Crisis. There we go. It was just okay. There was the art looks great. It told the story it wanted to tell. I think the two big problems that you have are there was a very, very, very large tonal inconsistency. You start with a large funeral service, Nightwing giving this very powerful eulogy about how we have to trudge on and maintain hope by keeping the candles burning. And then 2 pages later, Superboy is in Silly Billy Land trying to recruit uh, Dr. Light and Harley, and they're making funny faces at him. And somehow Firestorm is confused because his hair's on fire and all kinds of stuff. It's like, well, it got the job done from a, did you get from A to B? But at the same time, if you're talking about a big event, and this is the big event for the year for DC, it kind of barely crossed barely met the bar for being just like, this is okay. It just lacked gravity. It lacked weight. It just wasn't anything special.
What did your customers think? Yule out in the comic shop, were they enthralled? Were they excited about Dark Crisis?
No, not really. There's been there's so many characters that are in this book that aren't Batman, but on the shelves, everything's Batman. So it's kind of weird, I think, for people to have to, see these people all in one book. I've been selling it okay. I've got people in on it that maybe weren't going to read it. And, I know who to pick. And, if a Marvel person comes in, I'm not going to show it to them if they're Marvel Zombie. If they're a person that only reads like a book from DC, I'm probably not going to show it to them. But if somebody is invested in the DCU, I'd probably tell them to check it out and, probably be a little underwhelmed. There were some elements of it that kind of harkened back to the original Crisis, and that was kind of neat. But overall, I was flipping towards the end for sure. Just kind of flipping the pages. The art's good. I can figure it out.
The art is really
Pariah?
good. Daniel Safer, he's not a big name artist or anything. I think that probably would have done better served to have somebody that's a lot of name cachet. But if people read it, they're going to come away thinking Daniel Safer could be a superstar artist. Yule, I think.
Yeah, but this usually means that, you don't get put on a regular book anymore, or you move with companies eventually. Yeah, and then Joshua Williamson's kind of the same way as a writer. I've enjoyed his stuff. His Flash, he did a Vertigo book that I really enjoyed. Yeah, some of the Batman he's been doing has been pretty good, but he's kind of like Daniel Samperi. He's kind of like, this is a very competent, good person that's working for our company, but he's not the superstar artist writer that you would expect on a book that's so important for DC.
He's kind of like the closest thing, I guess, they have to a superstar writer that's writing for them now. Jeff Johns is dipping in with some Flashpoint Beyond, but Scott Snyder's not really there anymore. You have Sean Gordon Murphy, but he's doing his own Murphyverse stuff. There's not anybody that's like got that big name. Grant Morrison obviously has moved on with DC Comics. Like, who are they going to get to do stuff like this, Josh? If it's not Josh Williamson or Josh McDonald.
I mean, hey, if you want to give me a crack at it, I'll write a book for you. I don't know, because even when Josh Williamson kind of stepped up to the plate, what I will say about him is I think some of his best work that he's done for DC has been recently. I feel like if you go back prior to like the past year, I was not a fan of a lot of what he did. And we're kind of seeing some of the same problems here. Like, he doesn't seem to be able to end stories very well, and that's one of his biggest problems. And sometimes he just loses focus. So I'm surprised he's held it together as well as he has with all the books that he's writing. But I think he also realized, like, hey, here's my opportunity to step up. I need to take full advantage of this. I need to take it seriously. And I think he's tried, and I applaud him for that. But who's going to be the big person to take over? I don't know if there is anyone. I think we have hopes that maybe Chip Zdarsky or Ram V will be there, but I think they're all just a little too, I hate to use the word artsy, but they're too good of a writer to be a superstar, if that makes any sense. Like, they're so concerned with structure and writing a craft that can be considered, it's crafted well, that sometimes they don't have that story that's really going to drive. So I don't know. It's an interesting question, but DC needs to figure that out real quick.
What were your thoughts on Dark Crisis? Did you think the first issue set the tone for what you wanted in the big event?
I mean, I didn't want this event, so yeah, it set the tone. Look, it's better than the lead-in that we had.
The Road to.
Yeah. Oh God, that was
Kind
awful.
of made that comic book useless.
100%. Like we already got to see, the Justice or these heroes without the Justice League, the world without the Justice League. I think the biggest thing plaguing this book is that it just doesn't matter, and we know that. We know that for a fact. It just doesn't matter. And maybe there'll be something that stems out of this, but as of right now, like whatever consequences do come, they usually get wrapped up within a single issue or an arc following the event. So.
We'll see what's going on. Doc, did you peek in on Dark Crisis #1 since you knew we were going to talk about it this week?
I forgot it came out.
Oh, wait.
Look, I'm sorry. I don't. It's year 37 and a half of DC doing a fucking crisis. At this point, they're not crisis anymore. They're just days of the week. I don't care. Sorry. I'm gonna just not pay attention for this whole
My goodness,
segment.
Doc. Why are you here for the DC special?
I don't know.
can talk
You
about the
fucking invited me.
Fantastic Four. I don't know what I was thinking either. Let's see. Lane Craver says, Wes, idea retro review Josh and Doc together reviewing Batman Reptilian. Let's see the suffering. I know Josh wants the nightmares to return.
Lane Kramer, you fucking twatwad. Don't
Whoa.
you dare. I'm kidding. I hated that book, but yeah. Doc, did you read any of Reptilian?
No.
Okay. So maybe we should get Doc to read the trade, and I would love to hear him rant about it.
Oh, wow.
It turns out that Crocodile's asexual and he has a baby, and the baby wants to hump him, I think.
Yes.
So he asexually reproduces?
No. It's not asexual. Killer Croc is a hermaphrodite.
That's what it was.
Yes, that's what I mean. That's asexual reproduction.
Okay, so yes, Killer Croc is a hermaphrodite, has a baby that's like an alien monster baby, and then that alien monster baby wants to have sex with Killer Croc, then eat Killer Croc.
Tell me that's not
I
worth
think
it.
I do need to read this book. Because this
is
sounds like,
entertaining.
look, I am fascinated by fucking train wrecks. I mean, it's why I dated a lot of
You're going
strippers.
somewhere else with that TRA.
No, I am completely fascinated by train wrecks. So this is right in my fucking wheelhouse. I mean, why do you think I'm on this show every week?
You don't think about it. It's pretty entertaining. I'll give it that. Not the best Liam Sharp work. He's not. I like his his pencil and inks more than when he tries to do the watercolor style paintings.
Okay. I mean, I'm willing.
You should definitely read it though, man. They got it in hardcover. You'd like it.
Okay.
Liam Sharp was the one on Morrison's Green Lantern.
Green Lantern.
Yeah, I remember the first
yeah,
half was pencil and inks, and then the second half he started coloring it, and
it looked like somebody threw paint on a wall and just let it run down the page.
Yeah, it just became a little too abstract for me.
Yeah.
We've also got Jordan Fugate. The best part of Dark Crisis #1 was Black Adam roasting John Kent. It did feel like, Josh, that Black Adam was the point of view character for all the readers. Who it's like, are you stupid? You're not a hero. You don't know what you're doing, and you shouldn't be doing any of this. None of you are ready. You're all children.
Yeah, we talked about this. I can't remember if it was on the stream or just privately, but I mentioned that, just because you acknowledge how bad your idea is doesn't mean it makes your idea better when you decide to continue forward with it. But Black Adam was pretty much everyone being like, this is a joke. You're not a Justice League. You shouldn't be leading a Justice League. You're naive. You're not your father. We all know who should be leading the Justice League right now, and then walks off. And then I poignantly saw Gabe's tweet about like, he's not wrong. So
he's not. I mean, I there's two layers to that, right? The first layer is Black Adam being the voice of the reader, saying this doesn't make any sense because these are, Killer Frost, Harley Quinn. That's the big one that I always pick on, of course, for multiple reasons and all these other things going on. But the Justice League is dead, but not the entire Justice League is dead. It's the top 7. You've got all these characters that you could have gone to who have been around for years.
Flash, she's got a Green Lantern.
You got Constantine, Where's
Raven?
Raven? Where's Red Tornado? I think he might be dead, but I don't remember. You got all these B-listers and maybe even C-listers who have been around a lot longer, are a lot more powerful, are a lot more capable, competent, and could do more in a battle situation. What the heck is he doing? Reaching out?
Yeah, Nightwing's like, you know what?
Why are you talking to Killer Frost?
I know that you need a Justice League, but I'm going back to the Teen Titans Academy. I got a class on trust I got to teach.
You know what? Even better.
Like,
the whole point of the Teen Titans from inception, right from the beginning, the whole point is to train the next generation. That is why they existed in the first place. They were to be the next ones that come along once the old guard kind of moved on to whatever Valhalla, wherever they were planning to go. The Teen Titans were supposed to be the up and comers. Why aren't you talking to them? And it sort of underscores, A, the foolishness of the plan, and B, it underscores the foolishness of John Kent as a character. He doesn't have the strategic wherewithal to know that he's making bad choices. And to continue to kind of push him as, well, he's the next Superman, and he's the one that's going to lead us into the future. No, he's not. He's an idiot.
In fairness,
so that in future state.
In fairness, we're seeing a lot of, you're seeing in DC right now, a lot of what the X Office has dealt with for a good number of years, with their all being that next class. First you had the original team, then you had the giant size team, but that wasn't really a next class. But then you added like the New Mutants, and then you added the Generation X kids, then the next New Mutants class with like the Hellions and New Mutants, then like the young X-Men, and then like, it just, then new X-Men. You kept getting, and everything ends up really kind of compacted, and nobody really knows who the next generation heroes are now because everybody feels fucking old.
Did you notice like all the continuity errors that they also had in there, Gabe, where just last week we had Cyborg and Beast connected, but there was an illusion that brought them apart. Of course, he gets shot in the head, like in murder. Did it kill Cyborg as well? Last time we saw Jessica Cruz Green Lantern, she was a Yellow Lantern. In this comic book, she's a Green Lantern once again. And last time we saw Simon Bass, he wasn't even a Lantern anymore. He was like the conduit between the memories of all the old Lanterns and the new Lanterns. And he wasn't even part of the Green Lantern Corps. Now he's in the Green Lantern outfit again. It's like, can you guys keep your own continuity straight?
No, they can't.
That requires
that's the point of a crisis event to kind of fix all that. But yet, and why this one is kind of a downer is because at the same time, you're creating a crisis event to fix continuity, but within the crisis event, you're introducing more continuity at the same time. It's the thing is basically fighting against itself.
Dude,
I hate to call the event a loser, and I'm not going to try to be that guy because you don't know what the next issue is. Maybe 2, 3, 4. Maybe it's a completely different ball game. But at the same time, you're off to a really rough start. And if you're trying to build hype, I meant to ask you earlier. You said you're getting a decent amount of sales. Do you know the split between people who are genuinely interested versus people who are just picking up just because it's a number one?
I think when it comes to an event like that, the number one aspect isn't as important as it is with like normal books that are coming out. Okay. So I think everybody that's on board is on board. I don't know if they're really excited about it, but this is one you have to get if you're going to get this kind of thing.
Maybe more like mild curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, I think the people that are going to read it that I can count on, like I got more of the first issue. There's a bunch of different covers, there's incentives and stuff like that. It's returnable, so I can really make an effort to try and push this, for a couple weeks straight. But I don't think there's like a real overall excitement. There's no. Man, when the old Crisis came out in the in the early days, it was going on for months and months and months, and all the different books, and we knew things were happening, and it was building up. And with all the delays in comics these days, we're like Wes was saying, we're seeing continuity errors in this book already, probably because of some of that. Even John Kent, as Superman. He seemed like he's early on in his career, whereas in his own book, it feels like I already know he's king shit of his book, and he's not really. I mean, we might look at it as like he's making mistakes, but he doesn't feel like he's being portrayed a little bit better in this book. So it feels like it's a different, time in his life. I think with all the delays, it's just really not an exciting event. It's not. I mean, I even feel like even the Marvel stuff that they're doing really isn't all that exciting, other than the fact that I've been reading Eternals all this time and X-Men all this time. That since I've been reading this stuff, I know that it's leading up to it. But if you were just outside of reading X, Avengers, or Eternals books, you wouldn't know that that Judgment Day thing is happening. And I don't know. I think promotion's really bad. I mean, I do know promotion's really bad, and Dark Crisis is suffering it probably overall.
Cal Miles says Vita will make them trans. I don't think they're going to get Vita another crack at an event book after what happened with the Amazons. That didn't go too well. They probably lost a lot of money on that returnability. You know what I mean? I think they got a lot of comic books returned to them.
Well, still they're still going forward with Stephanie Williams. She wrote that the Nubia. She's writing the Nubia series.
Yeah, Doc and I are going to talk about that one on Monday. That was it was interesting.
Good for you.
Eric O'Sullivan, the Sultan of Soup himself. This was done before and probably better. Remember JLA, The Obsidian Age by Casey and Mankey? That was great. And the JLBT was great too. Cheers. Is that a better way to do it, Josh?
I mean, yeah, I think we've had a lot of examples of doing it better. I think when we get to events, they just progressively get worse and worse and worse. And it's because there are less and less stakes involved. And I think if you're going to do a crisis, you have to have the stakes. Like that's the whole, it's like what you were saying. The whole point of a crisis is to have stakes to make a change. And they don't. Those changes get softer and softer and softer. So, yeah, definitely been done better before.
This did feel like that with Nightwing becoming the leader. He was in the Obsidian Age also. Little correction, it was Joe Kelly that wrote that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Joe Kelly, not Joe Casey.
Correct.
You were probably right. They're kind of just retreading all the same stories all over again. Comics, Drew from Comics Elite says we have stacks of unsold copies of Dark Crisis #1. Well, that's why you make the comic book returnable, right? So you can order more than you anticipate. And hopefully you can burn through them.
I plan on having 2 and 3 up at the same time. So, like, if you're able to fan them out and then have Dark Crisis 1, 2, and 3, the nature of the comic book fan is that they've seen 3 issues in a row. They might as well buy them.
Yeah, now you got to run.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I mean, it's all here in front of me. I might as well get it. So,
that's how I got Claremont's Chaos War thing or whatever. I was like, oh, I can get the whole story. I was like, oh, exactly. I can see why no one bought it.
See, Larry says LOL, but he's got fat stacks, I'm sure.
So you're counting on the binge effect?
I always do. I have when I was in a bigger place and I had more space for my shelving, I have banks of shelving that I would just put consecutive issues up of. And, eventually someone comes in that hasn't been in a store in a while and they say, oh, wow, this miniseries. And they just pick them all up, and you can't count on much more, crazy sales after the first week. There's a diminishing effect over the course of like the months or whatever these comics are in. But hopefully, you can get a little bump come the second issue. Hopefully you can get another bump come the third issue. And yeah, stuff like that.
We shall see what happens. Callum Lyle says Kamala Khan was on this week. Is that the Miss Marvel show? Did that start this week?
That came out this week.
Mm-hmm.
Was it good?
Haven't watched it yet.
I honestly, I haven't read the comics. I've never read a Kamala Khan comic. I can't tell you what the comics are like. The TV show was a lot of fun. Is it targeted to me? No, it's definitely targeted to younger kids, but it is so much fun. So
I hear it's very much like a Disney Channel show. Kind of. Not Disney Plus, like old school Disney Channel.
Like Hannah Montana?
Yeah. I would say it's written better than that, though. It's like it reminds me of some like teen coming of age movies that have come out. Like style wise, it's a lot like that. Like Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Stand by Me.
Well,
Stand by Me.
We'll see.
Not enough vomited dead bodies.
Yeah. So, but no, it was.
She just wants to write fan fiction, dude.
It was. I thought it was really good. Some people at Batman News that are typically very critical of MCU stuff, they also enjoyed it. So if that tells you anything, I'll throw that out there.
Yeah, I'm too busy being mad at Obi-Wan to catch up on that yet. So we'll see.
Man, I got an Obi-Wan video coming tomorrow. My goodness. Although I haven't watched Miss Marvel yet. Nerdy Girl Creates Carrie says Harley Quinn is still a villain. I don't care what anyone says. Well,
Yep.
DC Comics disagrees with you. They want her to be a hero because she, I don't know, looks cool.
She's popular. That's why they like she sells well. So they're gonna do what they can.
I don't know, man. She's the number 140 this last month.
I meant
she sells T-shirts well.
Oh.
Yeah, like products she sells well. And then I think part of the problem that we found
movies,
too
Bob.
was, well, yeah, I mean, there's plenty to say on that.
Yeah,
But-
but Joker's a popular villain, and his movie made what, close to $1 billion?
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
I think part of it too is they have all these like young kid reader version of things and superhero girls and stuff, and Harley in those books is bad, but as bad as you can make a bad person for 3 and 4 year olds that parents are reading books for them for. But she's still very popular just because she's kind of like the mean girl, but sometimes she's good. So I think you've got all these people that are kind of been reading that and growing up, and they view her as, almost more of like an anti-hero type archetype. But there's a lot going on there, but I agree. Like, if you murder somebody, you're not a good person.
Yeah. Eric O'Sullivan, the Sultan of Soup, says DC Crisis traditionally involved the multiverse, such as pre-Crisis on Infinite Earth, JLA, JSA crossover of the Bronze Age, right? Does Dark Crisis involve the multiverse? Absolutely, it does. There's a lot of multiverse stuff going on. In fact, it's so hard to explain now that they've just changed everything with the Omniverse and everything. But Pariah needs to destroy it all so his family can come back. Obviously, he's been sold a bill of goods, and they aren't going to come back. But he's being used by the Great Darkness to essentially destroy multiverses, kind of like what Jonathan Hickman was doing when he was doing his Secret Avengers storyline, where you had all the multiverses being destroyed. Is essentially what's going on right now.
It felt a lot like that also, yeah. It's like it's borrowing elements of every world crashing into another world story there is.
Well, but except for that last page or two, there really wasn't a lot of multiverse stuff in the first issue, if I remember correctly.
Well, I was just thinking of those like big splash pages where they were throwing all that information at you and everything.
Yeah.
Like what happened to President Superman and all the other people, and you get the run, the recap. So you didn't have to read any of those other series that Williamson wrote over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And we've also got Everett, Todd. DC probably should close the Forbidden Door. DC's
I haven't
doing
seen anybody from Impact in there.
Yeah, we got New Japan coming in. What's going on?
No Japanese.
Oh my God, you don't like New Japan either?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying DC.
Oh yeah, you don't want to bring in the manga characters; they'll overshadow them. Beat them all up. But DC needs to do something exciting, get people going for their titles. One thing that they are doing is they've got this DC Comics Pride Hub that they set up this month. And this is a really cool idea, Josh. I think it's more catered to you than me. You're the gay member of the team here. And there's a hub where you can go in, you can see all the gay comics that they've made, all the heroes. You can get access to Pride 2022 before even the same day it was on the comic shelves. And I think this is a really good marketing idea to really get people excited for something for DC Comics.
I mean, yeah. I mean, look, if you're going to do something, you might as well have like a hub or market it or something. That's fine. I have no intention of buying any of this. So I don't know. For me, it's just, by all means, do it. If you have it there, that's great. Put t-shirts out. Sure. I think the thing that might get a lot of traction is probably some of the t-shirts. I think some people might swoop in on that. Hot Topic, I think, is partnering with them in some ways. Hot Topic's always been a really good partner with DC and Warner Brothers and putting out content material, whether it's shirts or collectibles or something like that. So that's pretty on trend. And then, yeah, I guess if you're going to put your money where your mouth is, connecting with organizations like PFLAG, it makes sense. Did I get excited? No. I just like, okay, that's cool. But I know that there are probably young people. There are probably some teenagers that for them this is really exciting. And, hey, that's good for them.
You're not getting the John Kent Jay Nakamura Kiss shirt?
Fuck no. I don't have any gay t-shirts or clothes. I don't have any shirts with rainbows. I don't have anything that says pride, and it's not that I don't have pride.
Technically, any t-shirt you have wearing is kind of a gay t-shirt, isn't it?
Pretty much. I make it gay, so I just throw a little flavor in there.
It's got the flavor. What did you think about all this stuff? You as a comic book retailer, see one of your business partners going out there and at least attempting something somewhat newish to get people involved in comic book.
Well, I think it's better than the Milestone initiative that they had, which is to like tag walls across America. All right, never mind. That was a little joke. That's what they did, though. I don't know if you saw any of the advertising. It's everybody doing graffiti. Oh, look, it's an icon graffiti. Oh, look, Static's being drawn on a bridge, or something like that. I think it's fine. I appreciate them trying something. I mean, it's in a virtual world, and if anybody wants to bring it into the real world, we'll see. They could have done this a little bit harder for Milestone for real. They should. Yep. They should do it for all their big events. They should do it for all their characters. You can't even get
the Milestone collections like on Comixology. At least you couldn't when Comixology worked.
Well, I don't know.
They haven't collected all of it.
I don't do the Comixology too often or look into it, but there's a big fat omnibus of a ton of the Milestone stuff. I keep buying it, selling it, and buying it. I don't go heavy on it, but I'm really hoping that, the new books for Milestone don't do very well. But there's a real excitement for people to be able to read the old hardware, the old Static Shock, and stuff like that. See Dwayne McDuffie, because a lot of people met him towards the end of his life, and this stuff hasn't been in print for a long time. So there's you get your first Chris Cross before he became who he is now, and other creators. So Dennis Cohen was already awesome, and then
isn't that where Salvador awesome Roca broke into?
I don't know, but
maybe it's Humberto Ramos.
I think Ramos may have done something. Yes. Yeah, that probably was true. Yeah,
Milestone.
But they just need to. We need more of it. You can't just depend on the magazine that you put in the store anymore. And then on top of it, you can look on it online to see what's coming out and stuff. But I didn't look too far into this. I got to admit, again, it's not for me, but I commend them. Like, keep it up. Do it next year.
Why don't they have a Dark Crisis hub where you can go in there?
That would be
There's some interviews with Josh Williamson, maybe some here's the free comic book day version. Here's the synopsis of what the other stories were.
All of that would be great.
It would be great. Like they should. I mean, honestly, because they've been planting seeds of this story since they started this new frontier. So that probably wouldn't be a bad idea. I think my biggest head scratcher was one of the things that they're doing is they're sending They were like, oh, we're sending issues of comics to libraries so they can have them on hand for Pride, but they're only sending one comic. And it's DC Pride 2022, which is god awful. I stepped in. My friend Nick at Batman News was sick this week and overloaded, so I stepped in to help him out, and I reviewed that comic. I gave it a 4 out of 10, and that was me being really, really nice. It's just so bad. I would say the one good thing they're doing comic-wise is they're pulling some older titles, and they're putting issue 1 up for free. So that might at least encourage some interest.
We've got Mr. DC Comics. Question: is Spider-Man the Peter Pan of comics? Is that why he must always stay young?
No.
No.
He's young because Marvel editorial can't get off their butt and let the character evolve. It's not endemic to the character. It's endemic to editors that just don't have the guts to make a change.
He's not young, though. He's 30. They just don't want to let him act like a 30-year-old. I'm not even like joking. I'm not being even like slightly, whatever right now. They just don't want him to act like a fucking adult because they can't de-age him. It would like they tried it and it worked for a while via Ultimate Universe, but they can't de-age him. And once he gets Look, Peter is a character that they're going to need to let grow up a little bit sooner or later, and they're going to probably need to reestablish the marriage at some point, because the universe, unless they do a full universe reboot, he's getting close to kind of crossing that indeterminate threshold where being unmarried and with no kids is still semi-normal and desirable in a potential romantic partner, to what the fuck is wrong with you? Because there's that indeterminate age where, you know, in dating, I say this is a guy that's, you know, 40 and never married and with no kids. At some
You're
point,
common law married now, Doc.
well, it hasn't been 7 years. Fuck you.
Changed.
It's not even been 7 months. Pennsylvania is 7 years. But at some point there was some indeterminate age where you kind of cross over and you cease being, you know, oh, well, that's pretty normal. And, you know, that's actually, you're probably in the 50% that is never been married and had kids, to being like the 5%. And people start asking, well, what the fuck is wrong with you then? Like, why have you, I mean, we understand being 40 and, you know, divorced with a kid, or divorced with no kids, or 40 and never married with a couple of kids. But they don't understand Peter. He, within the next 5 years in Marvel's sliding timeline, they're either going to need to you know, reestablish the marriage, or give him kids, or kill him.
Well, they're not going to kill him. That's
I know.
certain.
I understand that.
Gal Lyle says, is pride supposed to be the worst 7 sin? I don't know. It's one of the 7 deadly sins. I think they're all equally bad, I guess. But there you go on that one.
Hey, look, it's there's not to, we're obviously watching the industry commit other deadly sins like fucking gluttony and sloth and wrath.
We did the 7 deadly sins of Marvel and DC together with Doc.
I know.
He was spit hot fire that week.
Yeah, I mean, hey, their variant schemes are fucking gluttony.
There's a lot about that stuff. Is EVS never showing up? He has the link. He knows he was going to be on the channel, and then I did reach out to him, but he never actually he hasn't replied to me yet. So perhaps he's out doing something. I know he's got kids and a wife, so things do come up when you are domesticated like EVS and myself are. So I'm not really sure what's going on. I imagine he will be here when he finally makes it available. Cal Lyle says, "Kids,
Kids will change your life.
Kids are great. This is
Kids
the
will
best
change
thing
your
ever
life.
happened to me. Absolutely.
Yep.
You want to grow up and become an adult? Have 3 kids.
And be very, very tired. Yes.
Oh, you're gonna be very tired. Absolutely. Oh, Mr. DC Comics. Why is there nothing for Father's Day in comics?
There's a lot of jokes here about
I don't know.
people with
My wife
absent
asked me what she wanted to do.
people that never had fathers growing up, and because all of theirs left for milk and never came back. And that's why it's just a bunch of fucking pussies in this industry now. There's a lot of jokes about, about
Gabe, my wife asked me, what do you want to do for Father's Day? And I said, as long as the kids have fun, I don't care. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, I had the same. I had the same problem. She's like, what do we want for? It's like I'm at the stage in the age of my life, and maybe some other panel members can agree, where I'm just not into stuff. If I need something, I go. I'm
into
buy
TVs and stuff like that, but I already bought that.
Yeah, I already have it. I'm not into stuff, so we compromised, and I'm gonna buy a new grill because this one's getting old and rusty. So, but I'm not like a stuff person. So just give me a big hug and would and give me a quiet afternoon, and that'll be it.
I just figured out why they do nothing for Father's Day, because that would require there to be any heterosexual men left in the.
I don't know. Tom King thanked his mom on Father's Day. There you go.
Yeah.
That tells you everything you don't know. I was like, I had a single mom too, man, but I realized that my mom isn't my dad. Goodness. Cal, wow, me never. I mean that permanently. I imagine he's saying he's never going to have kids. Well, maybe you're Peter
Good
Pan.
for
I don't know
you,
what to
Cal.
tell you, man. Kids are amazing. That's the best thing that ever happened to me. Oh, besides my wife, she was amazing too.
So I spent some time thinking about the Pride situation and why it's not getting as much traction despite an overload of promotional attention compared to anything else that might be going on right now. I agree with everybody else on the panel that I wish they would do some kind of logistical structure like this, some kind of hub for every big thing that they do. Maybe not every big thing, but like the bigger things. So, Dark Crisis should have a hub, especially when they put out that one sheet map that says, oh, good news, we're expanding Dark Crisis into all these tie-ins. That's the wrong direction. You want to get tighter, not more convoluted. But if you're going to do that, have a hub for that, where you can go in and say, like, here are all the tie-ins, and you can buy them all at once and do all those things. I think that's great. They should be doing more of that. The fact that they're not doing more of that is a failure of the marketing department, and that is what it is. But the thing about Pride in general, I'm going to take a slightly different tack, is if you go way back to like bookstores, Pride is not a genre, or LGBT type material is not a genre. It's traditionally, historically, always been a subgenre of romance. Not always, but for by and large, when somebody's looking for LGBT something content and they go into a bookstore, it's usually some subsection of the romance department.
Yep.
And for whatever, and the top level genres of books, which are comics, a lot of them relate to, are always emotion based. Romance is, love, feeling, some lust. Then you have the dramas, which are tension, action, excitement. Then you have horrors based on fear. They tend to be emotion based, and the LGBTQ content has always been traditionally a subset of romance. So for better or worse, when you go into bookstores, and I think that a lot of that carried over in the comics, when you see LGBTQ plus whatever it is content, I think in people's minds, they still equate that with romance, or this comic has something to do with love stories, and that's where their focus is. So even though you come with Pride Hub and it's meant to push a particular type of perspective about how comic creators, how comic characters can be presented within the greater DC universe, the greater Marvel universe, I think in the back of people's minds, a lot of them still think of these are romance comics. They may be using superheroes, but the theme of the story is romance focused. So even though people might be turned off specifically because it's Pride based, I think there is a significant element of that says it's Pride, but it's Pride within the context of romance. And I'm not interested in a romance comic because your focus is on romantic relationships. And if that's your focus, I'm not interested in that. I want to watch superheroes beat up bad guys.
Yeah,
which is is a different kind of genre, different kind of focus altogether. So I think there's a lot of that carryover that has nothing to do with your religious or ethical feelings about Pride. It's more about, well, that means you're kind of making a romance comic, or you're using superheroes, but you're creating a romance story. I'm just not interested in romance stories, and so I'm just going to go over here where I'm seeing big explosions and superpowers, because that's the focus of your story. And I think there's a lot of that carryover that's just sort of not getting acknowledged by the editors when they do stuff like this.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I completely agree, because they're leaning so heavily into that romance aspect to the point that that's all there is to the book. And yes, you might have some type of threat there, but it's so understated and not taken seriously that it's hard to take seriously as a reader. So.
It's also often dispatched in under a page.
Yeah.
Just
so
the
conflict is incidental to the romance.
Well, yes,
100%.
It's a romance comic with capes in it. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, you're neither appealing to the romance audience or the cape audience with that product. We've seen like minimal success with mixing cape comics with crime. I mean, I'm talking more like noir crime. And it's very limited success. And those two have a lot more in common than Cape Comics and romance. The romance audience is predominantly disinterested in much of the Cape comic tropes and trappings. So you're not really selling this to anybody. You're not selling it, or at least anybody new. Anybody that wants to buy it's already buying it, and only a portion of your existing audience actually wants to buy it. So I now, as a concept, the hub is, I know you guys already covered this. It's a good idea. However, just like variants and events and crossovers and everything else, they would never use it with restraint. Everyone that was on the first, it would be used for whatever the A thing is, like whatever the big A storyline over the entire industry or the entire publishing line would be. That's where they'd use it, only exclusively for that. Or whatever one's their biggest one that they're promoting at the time. But then everyone else that have the B, C, D, and F stories in the publishing line would get their fifis hurt. So they'd need their own hub. And then you'd end up with fucking, like if it was Marvel, you'd end up with Outlawed hub. Does anybody really give a fuck? Would anybody? Nobody. Nobody would care. And you'd end up killing the use of it in the first place. I mean, and to be perfectly honest, all it is a digital checklist with some links.
Hey, that's more than they've been doing for anything else, Doc.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, let's take your point. Let's say they overdo it, but they do it for everything. That's exactly what's the point. It's better than what they're doing now, which is nothing. They're just putting out monthly stuff, and if you need to figure out what ties to what, you have to do research.
But
you have to do work.
The thing is, the minute you start overdoing it, it ceases being an effective tool, and it's the equivalent of doing nothing. Because if everything's special, nothing's special. And that's what the hub would be. It's for special things. Well, if everything's special, nothing's special. And it is the equivalent of doing nothing.
I disagree to the point where I don't look at the hub as something you only do for something that's special. I think it's a valuable consumer tool. I look at it that way. It helps customers make purchasing easier. So think of it like every time you go to Amazon and you're looking up a product, they have the thing at the bottom that says people who bought this also bought these other things. They make tons of cash off of that because they're making a natural organic link. So I don't look at it as something you do that's special. I think you look at it as something you do that just makes buying connected books easier. It's a purchasing tool.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, so we do have some comments from the viewers. We got some super chats. Ideator says diversity should be approached as if, they're gay, etc. Primary focus on anything other than what makes a character or hero first in your book.
Yeah. I'll just go ahead and say there are 2 stories out of like 12 or however many in the Pride issue that were actually good. And neither of them focused on the fact of neither of them focused on the gay relationship. Both of them just had a story with a gay character.
Is one of the ones you like the Kevin Conroy story?
Yes. Now there's a big lean into what happened to him. His is like a retelling of kind of his life growing up and in the film industry and the kind of tribulations he faced. It was done.
AIDS crisis of the 80s and all that.
Yeah, it was done well. Like if you're familiar with gay literature, you've seen this a dozen times. But it was interesting for me to hear it from his perspective. If I would say anything is more interesting about that story, he's got a brother that's schizophrenic and he had some fucked up parents. So I would love to learn more about that because I think that would be interesting. But Stephanie Phillips actually surprisingly had the second best story, and it was a Batwoman story, and it wasn't like focused on Batwoman. It was Colonel Kane talking about being a father and watching your kid grow up and how you can be hard, but then when you have a child, everything changes and you're concerned and you're constantly worried, and what your mentality is forced to change. And then watching him, and it just kind of taking the scope of one day you realize this isn't my child anymore. This is my young adult. It was actually really, really good. But
Oh,
We got this next question.
Never mind.
We got another question from Court Jester C46. Could y'all give your opinions real quick about how Facebook is paying creators up to $30,000 a month for engagement on their content through the bonus program?
I have
don't
no
know about
idea what
this.
he's talking
I don't know
about.
what that is.
I don't either.
So-
I'll
sorry,
have to look
dude.
into that.
Yeah, could you?
I don't think anybody would get 30,000. Like maybe there's a $30,000 bonus pool, perhaps that they're giving out to people, but that seems like a lot of money to be giving for engagement for comic book content on Facebook.
I'll share some posts for $30K a month. Sure.
Yeah,
I might actually create a new Facebook to make 30,000 a month.
Yeah.
Well, I actually have
that's
to have
like
a Facebook first.
$360,000 a year. That's quite a bit. I imagine that maybe there's a pool or something like that, but obviously, the one I know about obviously is Substack, where they have grades and stuff like that they're giving out. But unfortunately, I do not know exactly what you're talking about, Court Jester. I apologize. Steve Caldwell, I have 30 long boxes of comics. Wanted to pass them on to my son, but he hates comics today. Only wants manga. Thanks, DC.
And Marvel. You can thank Marvel too. Fuck them too.
Maybe he just has a bunch of DC comics, but I know exactly how he feels. I want to, read Superman and some of these other characters that I like with my son, and he likes Captain America and Spider-Man, but he would much rather read Dogman. And I have the comic books that are written for like 5, 6, 7 years olds that are in his age bracket, but I don't know. They just don't do much for it nowadays.
When I was growing up, we had Saturday morning cartoons, and there was like the Justice League or Super Friends. There was, Spidey. We've talked about this before on the show. Electric Company. Electric Company was the reason why I like Spider-Man. It's the reason why I read, early on. And it was just the character that captivated me. And, from there you find the 60s cartoon getting rerun. You don't get that as much anymore. It's got to be on a streaming service, or you have to actively seek it out. And it's, there's just so much content everywhere. Superheroes, comic books are, less important than, you can do movies where these characters actually do the things that they did in the comic books now. That never was the case. Like 10 or 20 years ago, they still weren't able to do it really good. And now they're pretty much able to do it. And, there's no Spider-Man cartoon when you come home from school. And, it's that's kind of what it is, until there's a little action because of like the CW. I had a lot of people that would buy Flash when they were into the CW show. And, it was kind of one of the comics that was most like the program that was on TV. And there's just nothing like that right now. And it's the way it goes. And I think we see it in comic books. I don't even really think it's necessarily, the Pride months or any of that other stuff. It's just, we're not getting bombarded with it in the same way that we were. We have to actually want to see that movie instead of the movie being a week-long series of cartoons.
Yeah, definitely feel your pain, Stephen Caldwell. We've also got Happy Steve. I never considered that aspect. I don't like romance-focused of Batman, Catwoman, or Richter, Shatterstar, but Apollo Midnighter and Reed and Sue, I'm all in for.
Yeah, it was good. That was going on with Gabe's points, and I'm gonna echo what he said. I think if you want to have those elements as a B plot or C plot, it adds a lot of nuance and texture to your story. But when it's your main story in a superhero comic, you're missing the point.
I'll expand that point. I'll expand on that point. I'll do you one better. Is a lot of people will look at Pride and LGBTQ content and they'll see it as that traditional mindset of it's a subset of romance. And so if they're not into romance stories, romance focused stories, they're just going to kind of nope out of it. I'll flip it even further. Is if you look at a lot of the just golden age, silver age, and beyond, and a lot of the stuff that kind of built up the foundational subset of superhero comics, most of that, not all of it, but most of it is science fiction based. if you think about the nature of Superman, if you think about the nature of Green Lantern, science fiction and fantasy. So if you think about all the big seven, they're all either based upon some kind of mythological story that's magic or something along those lines, or it has something to do with superpowers through a scientific accident. It has something to do with aliens or something like that. A lot of that is based in science fiction, and with a mix of fantasy as well, depending on what type of hero you're talking about. So if people are asking, how can we make better content? How can we make better superhero content? Maybe you need to start looking at science fiction writers. Maybe you need to start looking at people who understand story from this thing happened to this ordinary person that now makes them cool, and then they can use that to do other things. At the core of it, these are science fiction stories. A lot of
the last good era of writers that you had were almost exclusively crime writers.
Yeah, there's that aspect as well. There's that aspect. Sure.
Crime fiction writers or noir style writers are probably the best options because let's be honest, most science fiction writers today are fucking terrible. I haven't read a good science fiction book in a decade.
Well, I mean, you have to pick and choose. I mean, but what I'm getting at is the fact that romance is a type of genre that is turning off people who might be traditional into comic books from decades past. Those comic books from decades past were more in line with science fiction, magic, fantasy, those kinds of things. So if we're looking to figure out, where do we get the disconnect is, and I think that's where that pride disconnect comes in, is people who are into that stuff and been brought up on that stuff. Now you're giving them a romance genre comic and they're like, well, okay, but that's not what I like. I like what's over here. And so that's where the disconnect is. So if we're looking to recraft those stories to kind of bring people back in, maybe we need to start looking at people who have a proficiency in science fiction and fantasy genres. Yeah. Now, to your point about there aren't any good ones left. Okay, well, that's a different argument, but I think understanding the problem is where we need to go.
We've also got Common Sense says, beware with romance because of the shippers. A lot of shippers out there.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Shippers are the worst.
You make the weirdest stuff, and they definitely freak out. Gross stuff. Do Mega, Jerome. Shout out to the Thinking Critical family always. My little bro, Wes. Doc, the pistol starter. We got Big Yule and my homie Josh, and then Mr. Gabe. See you guys soon. Bless. Well, thank you very much, dude. We really appreciate it. We'll definitely have you back on the channel soon. We were gonna have him a few weeks ago, but he was working and he couldn't make it. But love Jerome. Love having him on the channel. We've also got Bad News Bears. Pride celebrated because there's some queer person out there thinking they're better off dad than being gay. I don't really care for the way the big two bring attention to Pride. You guys are great.
Yeah, I mean, look, and this is my problem with Pride. I'll just put it this way: I don't like the way companies push it because I think it's stupid. Like Joe Corallo sent me some links that he had gotten or emails and stuff of people pushing stuff, and it's just stupid. It's corporate nonsense. People ask because I live in East Texas. People ask me all the time, "What's even the point of Pride?" And I'm like, in my lifetime, and I put this in my review. In my lifetime, there was a point in time where my significant other could not be on my medical insurance. There's a point in time that if my significant other got sick and was in the ICU, I could be denied rights to see him. So stuff like that is why Pride exists. That's why it's there. I mean, there are actual legal differences that separated, straight couples from gay couples, and whatever your religion is or personal beliefs, that's fine. But there shouldn't be legal differences for any couples. That's my stance. You can wholeheartedly disagree. I also have a whole religious rant that I could go, not rant, but conversation that I could go on. I used to work for a church. But there are reasons that it's there, and those reasons have become lost. And part of the reason I praised the Kevin Conroy story was because it kind of touched on the reasons why Pride exists, why it started. And it made me mad because DC put a warning in front of it being like, oh, this is going to discuss sensitive subjects and use slurs. And I'm like, this is the point of your book. Like, you completely missed the point with the first 11 stories, and you got the point here. And now you're warning readers like, oh, this is hard to read, which it really wasn't. Be careful. So
well, you have to have trigger warnings in front of every story now.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wait.
It's this is going to deal with suicide. So what?
This deals with people who have AIDS, or oh my God, this said the word faggot. Like,
hey.
Sorry if I just got you.
Goodness.
Wow. You know what?
Hey, he gets the F word pass. He
I
gets
wouldn't
the
know- I
F1
went-
pass.
The
On my
YouTube
show last
algorithm
week, I
doesn't
got
know
the
Josh is
pass.
gay.
I got a pass. Right
That's why I
here.
said sorry. I said it, and then realized the algorithm. I was like, oh dear God, I'm so sorry.
Now he has to go back and beep it.
I know. Beep.
I can't go back and beep it. That's not how the live streams work.
You can cut it.
Goodness, my goodness. All right,
I do apologize.
we've
Not for
got
saying
Jeff-
it, but for ruining
Hey,
the
one,
algorithm.
two. I was 20 minutes late, but watching you guys at 2x speed is amusing. EVS has mentioned streaming with you on numerous streams, including 10 hours ago. Oh, I know. He knows he's supposed to be here, but I'm assuming something happened and he is indisposed at the moment. Hopefully, he is able to make it at least for the last half of the
Let him
show.
know he's got
We'll have some fun.
45 minutes.
Yeah, he's got another hour and 20 minutes to make it, and hopefully
Josh.
we have some conversation because I do have a lot of topics I wanted specifically to talk with him.
Josh,
What
you
was it?
you really meant cigarettes, right? Or bundles of sticks.
Yes, he's
not
British
British.
now.
He's not British.
Boy, lad, I can be Brit. Well, yeah, I can be British if I want to.
Yes, exactly.
Wesley D, you've got a great name, sir. Shout out to Gabe on his recommendation. I binged Kaiju number 8 this week and it kicked ass. Any other show to jump Rex? Hope you gentlemen have a great weekend. Oh, there's a lot of good show to jump recommendations. What do you got, Gabe?
Well, I mean, if you're going to jump into Shonen Jump, you just go for the top ones. You go for My Hero Academia. You go for Black Clover. You go for One Punch Man. Spy X Family. Their anime just came out and it's great. If you're looking for like cerebral stuff, like cat and mouse kind of thing, go for Death Note. There's a ton of stuff out there. And
Definitely
I think a
go
lot
for
of them.
Promised Neverland. That is a messed up story.
Yeah, there's a lot of messed up stories.
and get Crazy Food Truck. That's my favorite.
Crazy Food Truck. Chainsaw Man is great. Yes, Chainsaw Man. Tokyo Ghoul. I mean, there's tons of stuff out there. Everything related to Dragon Ball. Sure.
Fuck your
you
weeb
get
bullshit.
There's even a good volleyball manga out there that you'll enjoy. Try
I'm going to
some
get you
for
one
my
of those
wife, and it's
body
sold out.
pillows, Doc. I'm going to get you one of those body pillows and send it to your house, and then you can snuggle with it.
I'm sleeping on something. I really don't give a shit. I don't have to read it. Do I have to read the fucking body pillow? No. Why? Because it's not a piece of shit.
Wes, that's what you have
Roger.
to do. If you want to get Doc to quit, put a manga on your weekly show with him.
No, he will
Make
start
him read
reading manga. But definitely glad to see that there's another Wesley out there enjoying Shonen Jump. It's definitely the best value you can get in all of comic books. Like $2 or $3 a month, unlimited access. That thing is amazing. Ideator says, Doc, Black Science by Remender. I'm assuming this is in reference to something that happened earlier.
Remender's a crime writer. He's not a science fiction writer.
I would consider him a science fiction.
He
writer.
started as a crime writer.
So we're saying he's an actual writer and not a one-trick pony.
Wait, I thought no, he's been mostly comic books.
Yes, but he did a little bit of stuff outside comics, but most of his almost all of his early stuff was crime related. Most of the last big great Bendis, Brubaker, now Miller was not, but Hickman, Fraction, Remender, they all started mostly doing crime fiction, like crime stories.
I think the takeaway there is that they actually know how to write a story.
Well, no, that's I think that's the point. Crime writers in general have to have a lot more versatility. Otherwise, the crimes are very kind of cut and dry. If you want to be interesting, you have to be creative.
Okay. Very nice.
And you have to learn to write about other topics because you also have to learn about a lot of other shit to write crime well.
Very nice. We got Court Jester. C46 says it's really set up to where each person can make up to $30,000 a month. I'm in the program. Would love to come on the channel and talk with you about it in more detail. Well, I don't really know anything about the program, but hit me up with my email. It's westdigscomics@gmail.com, and we could talk about it. I would like to learn about the program and see what's going on. That could be an interesting discussion. It is the first time I've ever heard of it. We've also got Caleb Lyle. She-Ra people are the worst shippers.
That might be true. That might be true. It's close, at least.
She-Ra was a bad one. We got Cobbin Set says Tokyo Ghost by Remender and Sean Murphy.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
but-
Well, you guys had a conversation while I was out taking a leak.
These are great
assuming this-
Remender books for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for the
Um,
$2.
I recommend his what was it? Fear State? Is that what it was? No, it's Fear. Can't
Fear
remember the
State
name of it now. I forget what
was
it's called.
James
It's Fear
Tynan.
something. Fear Agent.
Fear Agent. Yeah.
Yeah, that was that moved from Image to Dark Horse back to Image. he that was when he was like, I'm gonna try and make some money over at this other company.
Gal Lyle says it's also good news for Berserk fans. Yes, despite the passing away of the creator of Berserk, they're going to continue and finish the story. I'm not sure how long it's going to go on, but they have some plans for it. So I think that was good news if they had the story plots and everything that were in place already. So I imagine Berserk fans are very happy about that one, and hopefully they do it justice. Happy Steve says, "Wow, Josh got Wes demonetized, not Doc. Never saw it coming. It's always the quiet ones that surprise you."
Yep.
There's the swerve for the show.
So here's the thing, and this is what most of you don't know, is I try to censor myself so much on the show just so Wes doesn't get demonetized. But if you were in my head, my sense of humor is so dark and so inappropriate. And I'm usually quiet because I'm like, I can't say that. I can't say that. I can't say that either.
The majority of what Doc says during our conversations has to be edited out. Thankfully, he keeps it somewhat clean here on the live stream, but Josh apparently doesn't have that filter.
No, I do. Well,
His
not
filter
today.
failed. It's okay.
Remember 3 weeks ago when you said I hate about gay people? What is going on here, man? It's like,
That's right.
I remember it specifically. Fuck. That's not cool.
If Doc would read more manga, that would clean up his act.
So yeah, that was a good one. Thank you very much, Happy Steve, for supporting the channel. Thanks to everybody for supporting the channel. And if you haven't given us a thumbs up, we're over 450 live viewers right now. If you haven't let everyone know that we're having a good time here, go give us a thumbs up. I think we're over 200 right now, which is very good. Hopefully we can get over 300 by the end of the show. That would be excellent. I think we hit DC Pride enough. I guess, I was kind of wanting to save this Green Lantern stuff for EVS, but hopefully he shows up. I think he probably will. Let's get to Trey Dodson's super chat here, kind of get us into this. Do you believe that reviving Hal as the main Green Lantern was a major success and reviving Barry as the main Flash failed overall? Looking for an insider perspective. Closest thing we have to an insider right now is Yul Carter. You were in the comic book business. You owned a shop. Was one a success and the other a failure?
I was observing some people talking about Barry Allen coming back as a failure, and I really don't think he needed to come back. I actually really don't think Hal needed to either. Good stories happen afterwards, so I think people are a little bit more forgiving. There was such great Jeff Johns work with Wally West and all the years prior to it that, any anger that the old people had at that time was unimportant because, Wally was so well established. I don't think it really needed to happen. I think it was kind of like, we went through the bad humps, the bad stuff with like Kyle Rayner. He had his new fans that were reading his book. And again, I don't think Hal needed to come back necessarily. But again, one last time, there were such good stories that happened as a result of it that, I was only an employee at the time, but I sold the hell out of everything to Blackest Night. And even like going over to New 52, the Green Lantern pretty much didn't change. So
Yeah.
Here's how I look at it. Barry never needed to come back as Flash. I mean, that's that simple. But Hal never should have been replaced, because if we don't kill Hal, we don't get Kyle. If we don't get Kyle, we don't get Fridging. If we don't get Fridging, we don't get Gail Simone. So it was a mistake to kill Hal in the first place.
So you're saying that the Sinestro Corps War and all the Mood Lantern rings that came out of it and all the shirt sales that I got are wiped out just because of Gail Simone?
Because of the fail whale, yes. Yes.
Well, damn it.
She is a blight upon comics.
I mean, I sold a
And
lot of those T-shirts. I'll have you.
I don't
know.
care. You
Hold up, Doc. You want to hear about a blight upon comic books? Let's listen to this comment from Fatal J. I'm watching the stream. I'm not properly clothed right now. He's watching us naked.
Well, at least he's not going to the bathroom like he does.
Do you think he's got like a bowl of nacho cheese on his belly? You know what I mean?
I think Fatal J is
Just-
celebrating his own version of Pride Month.
he's dipping his breakfast burrito in some salsa on his belly right now.
He's like an otter or something. Yeah. Slamming clams on his belly.
Slamming clam. We're not talking. We're done talking about the Pride anthology, guys. Come on.
That's all right. We've already been demonetized because of Josh, so it's all right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at this point.
I checked.
Also-
it looks like we've made it out alive. They haven't figured out what he said yet.
If we're talking about men, pride, and clams, I don't think those three go together.
They're not really. Not really.
No, but clam jam.
My goodness. Nah, that's okay, Doc. You don't need to. You don't need to elaborate. It's not
You're
needed.
welcome.
I was going to make a point to Yule's comment that the good stories came after. I think part of the reason that Hal coming back worked so well is they did so much to lift the mythology of Green Lanterns that no matter who was there, you would have seen the success because just the world building they did, elevated so much within such a short amount of time. And then they didn't necessarily do that with Flash at all. I mean, like Barry came back and you had more play into the Speed Force and more speedsters come, but that's about it.
It also kind of sort of felt like, like Hal was done dirty and Barry wasn't. And, we didn't need
Barry did die a hero, but
Yeah.
I mean, Hal kind of did when he gave
He
some
did,
sacrificed
but
himself as Red
he-
Flax and kind of redeemed
He
himself.
killed all the Green Lanterns on the way, and all this stuff.
That was
that he did.
unintentional.
Well, I hear you. Stole their rings. They're like, no, don't. He's like, nah, give it to me.
Neither one of them
like
needed.
Hal comes
Yeah, I'm
back, I think, was a little bit more understandable why people were okay with it. But Barry just felt like, like a divorced member of the family that isn't related to you coming to a party. That's what Barry coming back felt like.
Well, also the death or bringing Barry Allen back made Wally West expendable, and they kind of offered him up to the altar of Tom King, and we got Heroes in Crisis.
I mean, even before that, we got to keep in mind we had like a good 5 to 6 years that there was no Wally West. Like he wasn't even expendable; he just wasn't there.
Oh yeah, well, the New 52 for sure. They did Wally
Dirty.
really dirty too.
Oh, 100%.
Well, neither one of them needed to come back. But the biggest mistake that they made on both counts is that they came back and they just put them right back into the same role they were before they died. When somebody had already stepped up.
We have somebody that knows a little something about both of these issues. He might have illustrated Flash Rebirth and Green Lantern Rebirth. We've got Ethan Van Sciver. How you doing, Ethan? Are you here?
I'm doing okay. I'm so sorry I'm late. We had a couple of issues with the kids.
I
Great
completely
to be here.
understand. I've got
This
3
morning.
kids, 7 and under myself, so I know these things happen, but I'm glad you could make it. And we had this question. It was specifically for you. I was holding on to it. I'm glad you made it now. Trey Dodson asked, do you believe that reviving Hal as the main Green Lantern was a major success, while reviving Barry as the main Flash failed overall? He's looking for an insider's perspective.
Oh, I mean, I don't see how it could be argued that bringing back Barry was a failure overall. I think the Flash at the time was, I guess you had to be there. It was flailing. There were so many attempts to make the Flash sell, and I watched it. I watched it the way the Martians watched Planet Earth, in an Orson Welles radio documentary. I was like, yes, with envious eyes. Watching, attempt after attempt, making Bart Allen an adult suddenly, disastrous, only lasted 10 issues. Mark Waid came back and he had a really good idea, Wally West and his kids, but that didn't work either. Like nothing was really catching hold, and the original series had sort of slowed. So, Jeff and I had been pushing for Barry to come back for some time, and I think that the boom in Flash that followed, with the TV show, the success of the character on the TV show. I think that was all part of the enthusiasm created by Jeff Johns with Flash, bringing back Barry Allen. I don't think it would have happened in any other way. And once Hal Jordan was in place, the other Silver Age piece needed to be there as well. I mean, they're just Hal and Barry go together like ketchup and mustard. You really need them. So I don't know. Why would it have failed? What is the counter argument? What went wrong that I don't know about?
I don't know. Barry Allen as the Flash as the starring character of the Flash. You know, the series was essentially a top 20 seller for years until now. I guess with Wally West on the series now. So
yeah, Wally's great. I mean, what the thing I always wanted there to be the Flash family. And I really thought that it all worked together really well with this theme that underlies the entire book. Whereas, the good guys, you have the Allens, you have the Wests, you have the Quicks, you have the Garricks, and together there's this sense that they're a family because they love each other. They're not blood related. On the other hand, you have the Thawns. And the Thawns are very much about blood. It's like we are a family. We're this, super elite, kind of over educated, group of wealthy, like I said, elitists, and that's what family is. It's like the Flash family. They're mongrels. They're not a part of. So I thought that was really interesting. And then you've got Bart Allen with his sort of half-breed sort of, am I a Thawne? Am I an Allen? Like, what side am I on? You're kind of with us, but you're a half-breed. I just thought that would have been so interesting. I thought that would have been great. Just a great sort of thing to carry the whole Flash series forward. I don't think it worked out that way, though.
They're trying it right now, but it's mostly focused on Wally West and his wife and their kids right now. But I don't know. Once they did the Wally West Heroes in Crisis like character assassination, like they just haven't been able to revive the character. Like nobody wants to kind of invest in the character, and after they saw what happened,
it has to be fun. If it isn't fun, it's not going to work. And the Flash books definitely need to be fun. They can be scary too. I think the villains are particularly blue collar thugs. I mean, they're really the nastiest villains because they're the closest to us. In the DCU, they just have one special thing about them: the rogues. They found something they shouldn't have found. They have some power they shouldn't have. But yeah, if the books aren't fun, if they're sad and depressing, if Wally is complaining to his therapist, in general, that's not going to. It worked on The Sopranos, but it isn't really going to work almost anywhere else in superhero comics. I'm boring the hell out of everyone here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rush in here. Hello, everyone. Thank you. I watched
that's what I was
the
going to
show.
say. We do have Ethan Van Sciver from Comic Artist Pro Secrets. What you got going on right now, Ethan? Obviously, you walked right into a Green Lantern Flash discussion.
Yeah, perfect. No, I just I was up all night working on some promo art for Wreck Planet, the Second Chance campaign. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on right now, which is late, just like I'm late here.
I know we were.
That joke might have happened while you were.
Yeah, I figured it would. And
I'm like, there's a low hanging fruit joke of Ethan and schedules.
You got to make it happen.
Yeah.
Hi, Doc.
What up, man?
Definitely glad that we can have it. We do have some other questions here. We've got Sherikov 2814. No question here. It looks like you just want to support the channel. Thank you so much. That's very generous of you. Really appreciate that. If you have a question, put it in the comment section. Hopefully, Doc will pull it out for me. Cal Miles said, I can hear cynical voices, but I want Black Adam to be good. Yes, some of the CGI, but the build-up in the Shazam was a good idea, and I want this. I think he's saying he wants the Black Adam movie to be good, not the character to be good. I don't know. What are the chances of Black Adam being good? We saw the trailer this week. What were your thoughts, Gabe?
Well, I mean, if it's roughly the same kind of studio influence and push behind the Shazam movies, it'll be pretty okay. I mean, the first Shazam movie I thought was good. I think it was a solid movie. It wasn't super fantastic, but it was good. And Rock has definitely got charisma. He can carry a movie as a leading man. That he's proven that over and over again. It's not Oscar worthy. Okay, don't get me wrong on that. It's not Oscar worthy, but You know, you get Black Adam, Atom Smasher, Hawkman. Finally going to see Hawkman in a film, although I'm not crazy about the red. I prefer the green, but okay. So I think there's plus Dr. Fate. I mean, Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate. I'm all in on that. So I think there's a lot of potential there, but you know, we'll see. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. That's one of these things. Well, it'll probably be okay. It'll make some decent money, and we'll see where they take it.
Well, see, I love The Rock. I mean, everyone loves The Rock. Now, my big question though is, The Rock just going to play The Rock again, like he does in like his last 15 movies? Because that's all he's played.
He hasn't been playing the Tooth Fairy again?
No, but I mean, he's just been playing The Rock, not any other character. It's just The Rock. So is he
actually
actually
he chose this character? He just went, I'm going to be this guy. I want to be a superhero. I'm going to be this guy.
I think he had a vote. He was going to be Shazam or Black Adam, and people on Twitter voted Black Adam. That's why we chose.
But I guess my question is going to be: is he going to be Black Adam, or are they going to turn Black Adam into The Rock? And that's my big question, because at least for the last couple of films he's been in, he's basically just playing himself, not anything else. I mean, he
doesn't have to anymore. That was back in the Get Shorty days. Okay,
I get it. I mean, when he actually had to act as the character that he was playing.
Yeah, but now you're buying. Look, you don't pay him millions of dollars to be anything other than the most electrifying man.
I get it. He's Tom Cruise. He's Jason Statham. Where every fucking character is just him. But when you hop into a role like this, I mean, they did it.
Look, you're just saying this movie's gonna suck, and I agree with you.
No,
all right, dog?
because I guess my point was they turned Iron Man into Robert Downey Jr., not Robert Downey Jr. into Iron Man. And are we going to get
the greatest thing that ever happened to Iron Man?
I don't disagree on whether or not. I'm not talking about whether it's good or bad. I'm just asking what the result's going to be.
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. What do you think, EVS? You know the character Black Adam. You see The Rock.
I drew him quite a bit. Yeah, I wanted an accent. Can I just say that? I mean, is that I wanted
Kahndaq? He's from Kahndaq, right?
Foreign accent. I didn't hear anything. He just sounds like The Rock. Other than that, it looks okay. I'm a little uncomfortable with the fact that DC can't do anything that anybody wants, but they're quick to do something like this with one of the biggest stars in the world. They're able to turn out a brilliant looking movie. In my opinion, I know some people it's not going to do well because nobody cares, but based on a character that nobody except for the biggest comic book fans even know. So it's interesting. You see, it was great to see Hawkman, some version of Hawkman. Atom Smasher looked effing fantastic. Dr. Fate, I'd like to get a better look at him. Pierce Brosnan, top actors in this. Is it going to be good? I personally really enjoyed Shazam.
I love Shazam.
I'm going to say yes, it's going to be good, but it's not going to make any money. I don't think. Not really. I mean, who cares? Except
The Rock only is Viagra for sequels. Unless you consider this a sequel to Shazam, I don't know.
He is franchise Viagra.
I think at this point, I think he's the one actor that, based on name, will sell movie tickets too. So I think that's what Warner Brothers is hanging their hat on at this point.
I mean, you can count on one hand in Hollywood the number of leading men that are out there that disappear into the role, right? Gary Oldman, maybe what's his face from American Psycho?
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
These like these method actors you're talking about,
right? The ones that where when you look at them, you see the character, you don't see the actor. You can.
I really appreciate Jared Leto as the Joker, so I'd rather have The Rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, the Rock has the part because he kind of looks the part. I mean, he looks like he could come from the Middle East. He's big and beefy and everything. He looks the part, but that's about it. I mean, if you're looking for deep acting acumen, you're looking at the wrong person. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
We got Rodney Sanders II. The mega powers have collided. EVS and Comics Aficionados. Oh my goodness, what's the mega powers? Yules at WrestleMania.
That'll be a Hulk Hogan and
no, I know what it is when they took on the Mega Bucks. Which WrestleMania is that? WrestleMania 6?
I don't remember the
5.
You're the wrestling guy.
No, I think it was 5.
No, 5 is the one where Macho Man wins the title.
Oh, was that the one?
Yeah, that sounds good. 6 then. I'm gonna guess 6. You
These
convinced me
guys
with
don't even
6.
know wrestling. My
Dude,
goodness.
I'm telling you, man, the numbers just
4,
are
5,
gone these
6,
days.
4
Gone.
through 7 kind of blend together for me.
I can see that. But thank you very much to Rodney Sanders for supporting the channel. Cal Wow, off topic. Ethan, has Tess Fowler ever been insane? I saw the depth tweet she did. And 2, how do you walk into DC without getting backstabbed?
Jeez, guys, save this stuff for my show.
What are you trying to do? Get me demonetized here? I'm trying to
We're
have a
already
friend with
demonetized
the show
thanks to Josh.
Yeah, you know, I did that for you.
here. Josh did throw an F-bomb out there.
I did.
My goodness.
Putting out slurs, man.
Yeah.
That.
It was a bundle of sticks, guys. A bundle of sticks.
Tess Fowler's always going to chime in on stuff, and
Yeah,
Test
and
Fowler
DC,
gonna-
I'll answer the second part of the question, but I mean DC. First of all, DC's very loyal. I mean, they're a really good family. I could tell you some secrets about DC that would make you think they've never backstabbed anyone. Deep, dark secrets that would make a lot of people angry. But instead, I would just say, for the most part, yeah, if you want to work at DC, you just have to not badmouth DC, and you will work there absolutely forever. Don't forget, I mean, I got kicked out of there, but on my way out, they were saying, come back in June. And I was like, what happens in June? And they were like, just be quiet until June. And you know what happened in June? They fired Diane Nelson. So, they were always good to me over there. It's a pretty good company. But I ain't going back there.
So
But Presti said it was great there until Dan Didio was out, and then like the guy that was looking out for everybody was kind of gone.
Yeah, like basically what happens is once there's a turnover, I mean, your career in comics tends to hinge on, unless you're Jim Lee and you have a legendary reputation, but your time in mainstream comics hinges on the relationships that you build with editors and people in power. And once they go, unless you can quickly build new relationships with new people who are already looking at their own people, that's kind of why people cycle out in comics. Why you stop to hear about some people that, where is Daryl Banks? For God's sake, where is Daryl Banks? Where are these guys who actually had big impact in the 1990s?
I actually thought I saw Daryl last weekend at Three Rivers Con.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's where he is now. Yeah,
no, but I saw Lee and Artie too. So,
yeah.
There you go. We got Drew from Comics Elite. Hey guys, I'll see most of you Bostiches in Dallas next week. Thanks to everyone who backed Border Blood #2 and made it my 3rd successful campaign. Ethan, I need you on a cover for number 3 or 4. Are you available for covers?
Sure. Yeah, I'm
Reach out.
kind of for a brief window, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to bring the big bucks, though, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Drew's cool. I like Drew.
No discounts for Drew from Comics Elite. You better pay up, son. You've had 3 successful campaigns. You don't need charity. Definitely congratulations to Drew and the team behind Border Blood. They definitely had a fantastic campaign, which I believe just ended. So we will be talking to Drew tomorrow on the Best of the Week. Erica Sullivan, we got the Sultan of Soup. I love Wally's new rogues. Double Down was sick. The hell happened to Double Down? Haven't seen him in ever.
Yeah, more Double Down, please.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't know what happened to Wally West and
wait,
Flash is just so dead right now.
hold on. We're talking about double. Are we back to fast food aficionados?
We're not doing
KFC
KFC
Double
now.
Down?
This is a
Okay. I thought we were talking about KFC for a second.
I'll talk about KFC. Lade Kraber says, Ethan, do you think DC could ever bring back the other Lantern Corps effectively to flesh out Green Lantern? And what was your favorite Green Lantern to draw?
I love drawing Kilowog. He was my favorite Green Lantern to draw.
Definitely.
I don't know. I haven't been reading Green Lantern. Green Lantern, it just always seems to me like over time, building up blocks in the shape of a giant power battery and then kicking it over again. And then trying to rebuild it again and kicking it over again. I tried to read. I did my research to be here. I read all the links you gave me, and I actually zoned out during the Green Lantern one. I was like, "What is this? Like, what?"
Everyone zoned out during the comic run too. They just stopped reading it.
Yeah, like I don't get it. Like Jeff was so fun. I mean, his run was great. I think the stuff that we got to do together was memorable, and iconic. And I don't know what the hell they're doing now. But, you know, I would like to see things. I'm the kind of guy who goes, okay, it's perfect right now, so just leave it the way it is. Like the other cores are out there. Tell stories now. Don't kill everybody and, you know, all this
I think
stuff.
Chip's a Blue Lantern now.
Who?
Chip.
The squirrel?
The squirrel.
Yeah.
Is he alive? Isn't he dead? I mean,
Nobody knows.
we had to create a whole new squirrel. Jeff and I created Badge, and he got a toy made of him. But yeah, I thought Chip was dead. Who knows?
He's back now. This week we got Kilowog, but the female version from Earth 11 in Multiversity Teen Justice. I do not recommend that comic book. But I think
the idea behind Kilowog, of course, is that he's the last of his kind. You know, his species was destroyed. So seeing a female one is weird. But I guess she's from another dimension, or
Earth 11, where everyone's gender is reversed.
I see.
Yes,
Great.
Goblin says people want The Rock to be Black Adam for decades.
You mean The Rock wanted The Rock to be Black Adam for decades?
Yeah,
Wasn't
wasn't
this
this
for like 9 years?
No,
I was about to say, wasn't this
Yeah,
originally announced in like 2012 or 2013?
Yes,
like
yeah.
been
it
a
was.
hot minute.
It's been
He's-
forever.
he
Forever.
signed the deal to do this almost a decade ago. The fact that it's taken them a decade to figure out a fucking script for the guy. And he's not, it's not like he's somebody that's going to be sitting around. He's not Robert Downey Jr. in 2009, like barely getting work just out of jail. He's still the fucking Rock, and the guy's making $1 billion movie every year. So
they had to ruin Harley Quinn first. So they got those out of the way.
oh yeah.
We got the Tome of Freaking. Is it Freckening? Very nice. It needs an accent and a widow's peak. Absolutely. Those are the two big things with the.
Does he have
20
20
years.
years?
Pointy ears.
I didn't notice. I didn't see him with
I don't
pointy
think
ears
he
in the
did.
movie.
Didn't look like he had pointy ears in the
I don't
trailer.
believe so.
He said no pointy ears.
Robin in the Hood says, "Happy Clayton Kershaw Day." What
Yeah,
does Clayton Kershaw do?
he's
doing okay?
going on. He's on the mound today,
Oh,
taking the mound.
that doesn't seem
Month
like
off.
a celebration. Seems like it's a job.
It's what we say. Happy Clayton Kershaw Day.
Gal Lyle says, but I do want there to be a scene where Adam is looking at a screen and he sees Billy saving that bus, and then you have a sinister looking smile. Yeah, maybe that would be a good cliffhanger. That one at the end. Definitely try and get some of the iconography of the comic books into the movie. Paul M. EVS, thank you for your run on Green Lantern. That was amazing. Which one?
Overall.
Just all of it. Oh, there we go. It's all pretty darn good. I personally am fond of the Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, personally. Although
Boy, was that underrated. Did you read that?
I've got
Robert
every
Venditti.
issue.
Yeah, like, wow, what a great. Yeah, I was just like, Robert Venditti is turning in script after script that is just a winner, and nobody's noticing. But I got to draw 20 issues of it. It was pretty good. It's fun.
The
Yeah,
one where
Venditti
he,
had that same problem recently with Hawkman. I don't know what it
Yeah.
is. He turns out good stuff. He's just not getting any exposure at a marketing level, and I don't know what that's about. But he turns
Peter
out
well,
well,
Tomasi
Hawkman hub.
disease. Peter Tomasi's the same way. I mean, just amazing writer who is, for some reason, they won't let him get any traction. And don't they know it? The two guys do know that, and it is frustrating, I'm sure, for both of them.
yeah, that Hawkman run is absolutely gold.
Yeah.
Gal Lyle says they should. They said in the villain of the movie is Sabec. Who's that? Josh, who's Sabec? You're the DC guy.
Hold on. Yeah, but I'm not as versed in this as.
Yeah, I don't know either. That doesn't sound familiar.
I mean, I better this.
He looks like a demon.
Yeah.
So
Why not
apparently
just
he
use
didn't-
Etrigan?
Apparently, he didn't originate in DC Comics. So
Oh, well, that makes more sense.
so it's
Well,
Okay.
neither did Shazam, so I guess that makes
it's a
Well,
blank,
yeah.
so it's a
Yeah.
blank slate character, essentially.
eh.
We've seen enough big demons and devils within the comic book movies. They probably could have done something more original. Dark Bobcat, Ethan, if DC offered you Jim Lee's job, would you take it?
No.
He's like $1 million.
Well, wait a second. I mean, what is Jim Lee's job anyway? What does he do?
Go to
nobody
meetings.
knows.
Yeah.
Sit
Quietly. Do
quietly.
live streams. It's like your
Just
job right
draw.
now.
Sit quietly.
Yeah.
Never talk to anyone. Maybe sketch some shit in a notebook that nobody ever sees, never draw anything, never do interviews.
There's covers. He does covers.
He'll do a periodic cover.
Yeah.
Most of it is just like,
Well, he'll do the odd, bizarre interview with Hollywood Reporter that doesn't make any sense, but you know.
He wasn't meant for this. I gotta say, like, you know, the reason Jim Lee is there is because they desperately needed to nail him down. Like, it's like, you stay here, Jim. You draw for us. You don't go back over to Marvel. And the only way to get somebody, an artist like that, is to make him president of the. Like, is there anything better? Jim, you are now co-president of the universe with God. Okay, you and God are now running the universe. You understand? God's going to do most of the work. Don't worry. You just
Video's going to do all the interviews. He's going to talk to the talent.
That's right. And that's what they did to Jim Lee. I don't know what he does. I've never interacted with him in a way that showed me that he cared or understood what was going on at DC. And I was there for many years. And in the time that the one time that I remember most distinctly where I went, you don't care, do you? We were sitting, this is around New 52, maybe a little before that. You know, I had an interview. I think Gail Simone was there, a couple of other people, and we were talking about Plastic Man, because it was always like, Plastic Man's on the horizon. You're going to do Plastic Man, right, Ethan? So I'm sitting there pitching to the elite of editorial this idea of like an Irish gangster, you know, Plastic Man as a thug pretending to be a superhero, or a superhero who's pretending to be a thug in order to serve the FBI or himself. And who is this guy? You know, it's like, that was the whole theme, like a more serious version of Plastic Man. And everybody loved it. And they turned to Jim Lee and they go, Jim, do you have any suggestions? And Jim looked up from drawing something on his iPad and he goes, I guess I'd want to know like how like his powers work scientifically. And I went, no, I don't. Okay, yeah, sure. We'll like, nobody wants to know that. Like, that is not important at all to this story that I'm sitting there. But okay, and you know, it was just something for him to say so that he could go back to drawing. Like, he was not paying any attention at all. Like, he was just there.
Plastic Man. He's not a big character, I guess.
Right. But I mean,
I love Plastic Man. He's so good, though.
These conversations are so fun. Like, you get engaged creatively with the, like, I'll talk about Black Adam all day long. I don't care about Black Adam, but you can make me care. And that's what's so fun about comics. Like, let's just create stuff and let's get into it and let's make every single character the most important character that, you know, that is in this franchise. You know, everybody else seemed to be able to do that. But Jim, like I said, I never got the feeling that Jim Lee could do that or wanted to do that. And I thought that was too bad.
Keep in mind, Jim never really had any major affinity for DC Comics. He grew up a Marvel guy. He wanted to be Stan. He basically worked only for Marvel. You know, he went back to Marvel during Heroes Reborn, Return, whatever the fuck one it was. And he almost sold Wildstorm to them. And then that deal fell through at like the last minute. And so, but he was still trying to sell the company. And he was basically just, I'm pretty certain that the purchase of Wildstorm guaranteed him some degree of position within DC for basically as long as he wants.
We've also got HH from Sigma Comics. If you don't know HH Germany, he's a good guy. Just had a conversation last week. Shout outs from Brooklyn Comic Con. When we started out, we read bad stuff about CG. EVS always rejects racism and bigotry on his show. CG deserves credit for their accomplishments. In a second look by many who drank the Kool-Aid, fair criticism isn't racist. He's also got Here Comes Calico, number 5, I believe, on Kickstarter right now. So congratulations to Sigma Comics and HH. And it sounds like he's a big fan of yours, Ethan.
Yeah, hello. His name is H.H. German. I've always been careful around this gentleman.
I think he is from Brooklyn. He used to be a boxer, and then he became an MMA fighter. So he's he's a cool guy. I always kind of go, is that your real name? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, he's a cool guy. I like Sigma Comics. So thank you for $50 for the channel. Absolutely. But he's the one comic book writer in the world that you don't want to mess with.
Yeah.
You look at Greg Capullo and you're like, oh, he's real big, but he's not going to rip your arm off. HH.
I've never seen this guy. Is he a weightlifter? Is he a big guy, this dude? Or
I think he was a middleweight or something. He was like
Wow.
185 when he was fighting or something.
Hello,
but-
Sigma Comics. Good for you.
Yeah.
Keep
Definitely
me in
don't mess
shape.
with that guy. Just shake his hand and be happy. He didn't
Mhm.
slap you around a little bit. You could do it if you wanted to. But definitely thank you very much. That's very, very generous, and congratulations congratulations on all the success. That's really what it is. So glad to have you here.
It's
We
not
got
the
Johnny
racism,
Jib.
it's the sexism. That's
It's the sexism that gets
fully
people mad at you.
embrace here. Yes, yeah, sure.
My goodness. These guys. Johnny Jam Boogie, is it coincidence that Slott was taken off Fantastic Four a week after Quesada leaves?
I'm
I don't know,
going
have
with
you heard anything
no.
about that? He got 4 years straight. He literally, his last issue will be 4 years on the book. He started out in August. He'll be ending in August. Maybe that he wanted a 4-year run.
I mean, his run wasn't that great. It
No.
was,
And
it was
Andy didn't actually hit 48 issues because he's Dan Slott.
Because we had the pandemic shutdown for 2 months.
I mean, the most notable newsworthy thing that came out of his run was a dumb thing, which is basically declaring that young Mr. Franklin wasn't a mutant because his brain tricked his body into creating an artificial something stupid. I mean, it was like, okay, and that's the only thing that ever got any attention out of that run. So, I mean, good luck to
you
Mr.
like
Slott
that
and whatever
run?
he does next.
EVS, I know you're a big Fantastic Four guy.
No, I would never. I would never support Dan Slott in any way, ever. I would never give any money to anything he did on basic principle. And there are very few people that I will say that about, but yeah, like I wouldn't. And I love the Fantastic Four. And the idea that Franklin Richards is not a mutant is pure bullshit that I hope they will overturn at the first opportunity, along with everything else he may have done to that series. Thank you.
That was
Sorry,
his key
Dan.
contribution.
I still
That's the
think
marriage
that,
between Thing and Alicia, I believe.
I still think that Dan Slott has damaged the perception of comics for people that aren't comics readers more than anyone else in the past 10 years.
Dan
After that-
Slott is the human version of comic book guy, but if he worked in fucking comic books.
Yeah. This is my take, my perspective, but I feel like a lot of times when people hear me talk about comic books that don't know me that well, they're like, "Oh, you read comic books?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there's actually some really good stuff out there." And then you get this little documentary episode that features how comics are made, and it's a complete joke.
It's a hit
It's
piece.
like, how do you expect
This is a
anyone
parody.
that's not reading comics to take this seriously now because you don't take it seriously?
That 616 documentary was shocking.
Oh,
I
my
am
God.
so
Hilarious.
surprised that made it through Marvel's blessing to say, yes, go ahead and push this to the public. That is such an indictment of incompetence at multiple levels at Marvel. I'm so surprised that thing made it to the public.
I laughed
yeah.
for a week straight. I couldn't stop laughing.
You
It was
laughed. I
amazing.
was pissed off because I was still writing reviews at the time, and I was like, I put more fucking work into this than these fucking comic writers. Screw this.
Yeah.
That's what it
By the way,
does.
the comic book guy is more Peter David. Peter David is that guy.
Yes.
Much more so
Yeah,
than Dan
you
Slott.
got a point.
Peter David's a great writer, though.
But yeah, no complaint. I'll buy anything Peter David writes.
Darth Bobcat asked, "Does Kilwaga call everyone a Poozie?" Because it's a female
Poozer.
character. Now, I don't remember that line being in there, Doc. Did you read that part?
Are you talking about in that Pride?
Yeah,
The
Multiversity Teen
multiversity?
Justice, where we have
I
a
don't
female Kilwaga.
no, I don't believe so.
Nah, I don't think that is. But it's could happen. We got 5 more issues of that damn thing.
Oh
Oscar Barons.
I think
Thoughts
we
on the
missed-
season finale of Young Justice Phantom's West? I didn't watch
I
it.
haven't watched it yet.
Haven't seen it.
If my kids don't watch the cartoon, I don't get to watch the cartoon. They watch so many cartoons. That's it for me. You know what I mean? EBS, you know what I'm talking about. You got little kids. Probably having to watch Paw Patrol and stuff, right?
I have my daughter's 6. She has autism
Oh.
and she loves Paw Patrol, but she's slowly discovering superheroes and she will. But I'm hoping they're DC and not Marvel. I'm trying to steer her away from Disney. Even I gotta. My politics are gonna invade my my daughter's development with cartoons and stuff. So Paw Patrol's great. If she likes DC, wonderful. But yeah, I would stay away from anything Marvel with her if I could.
Is she watching things like Word Girl and Super Y?
She
On PBS?
loves Super Y was
Super
2
Y's-
years ago, but
Yeah.
loves Super. Right now, she just discovered Dr. Seuss, and
Yeah.
her autism allows her to memorize things like entire movies. That's her superpower. She's 6 years old. She just was reciting, Green Eggs and Ham by memory. while throwing trucks down the stairs, and that's why I wasn't here. So
That's awesome.
I had to watch her for a little while.
It happens.
Fox and
My
Sox should keep her
7-year-old,
busy.
we got him like 10 volumes of Dogman, and he read it in 2 days. I was like,
Oh,
I gotta
Dog
find
Man, I
more
gotta
Dog
look into
Man.
that's got to be magic. Amazing.
Yeah, he was right in on it. And they're a pretty good price too, so I was shocked. That Yellow Spider guy says, let's talk about the frog in the room, Wreck Planet. What's going on with Wreck Planet? You got the second chance opportunity?
We're going to do that soon. I just finished it on Sunday, and it's 73 pages long. I think it's the best thing I've ever done, and I'm just going to let the critics. Oh God, the critics! They'll work that out among them. But yeah, we're going to do a second chance because it took. I launched this thing in March of 2020, and it took that long to do this. But there are a lot of people who want it who haven't been able to purchase it, reserve a copy. Give me like a week and a half. I want to do 2 new covers for it, and then we'll launch the second chance.
Now, do those 2 new covers go in with the Wreck Planet box set from before?
Nope, it's a whole different campaign. That's the gimmick. I know. Listen, that box is stuffed. There's no possible way that anybody's going to be sad about the honeycomb box. It has 2 PVC toys. We're making toys. And I gotta just say that. I mean, just to underscore how wonderful of a movement Comicsgate is and what the possibilities are with crowdfunding. We're making action figures on a level that we could compete with Hasbro. Like our Cyberfrog action figures are fantastic, and our PVC toys, which are nearly free in cost. I mean, they're like the Cyberfrog PVC is a bonus for anybody who backed the magazine, just the comic. Very, very, just incredible to be able to do that. And then the beach towel, which we just, you can see it hanging over there. We decided to make beach towels. So, yeah, these will be new. And the reason why we have to do this also is because I keep every campaign separate in different bank accounts. It's different businesses for every big campaign. It's a lot of work. We found out that shipping this to overseas is going to be incredibly expensive, and we have to make sure we have enough shipping money to get 12,000 packages containing toys all over the world. I'm going to be like Santa Claus this year. So we want to make sure we'll have 2 new covers to help pad our bank account there, and we'll get this sucker fulfilled and on to issue 3.
People don't realize about shipping, like just being a store, that's like $50 to $100 depending on how much I'm getting shipped to me through a company usually. And then, bags, boards are heavy, boxes are heavy.
Labor, getting people to do it for you, because I do a lot of the shipping work myself, which is incredibly stupid, and I'd like to hire more people. Who do we trust to let them into this? People have to just not care, but know enough about comics, to not to be able to do this. But shipping a box, shipping one of our magnetic boxes to Australia, $85. It's like that is I can't in good conscience charge that to people. It's like the box itself is $150, $85 shipping, but that is what it costs, and that is the reality of shipping books like this. But man, hand fulfillment, zero pipeline. It's a lot of problems.
Buy overseas containers. Buy corrugated.
That's what it is. That's why big ass companies can get away with this kind of stuff.
A lot of people have talked about that. They've said, look, set up a little, because I mean, Canada, the UK, Australia. Those are the 3 big hubs where my books go. And it'd be great to just have somebody over there who will just send them all big crates of stuff, slow boat them, and they distribute and fulfill from there. Maybe when we get a little bigger, like that's going to be something that we have to consider. But Wreck Planet was an absolute monster campaign. It's going to get even bigger. You have to become a businessman real quick. I'm a dummy. I'm an artist who sat there and looked at, working for DC, just penciling Green Lantern. But you have to become a businessman.
It's like what you're doing, even in close to what, those guys, when they started Image, they probably had no concept of what they were getting into.
They didn't do anything like we are.
Situation too, right?
I've got 2 warehouses. I've got employees. It's like they didn't have to do anything like that. They just did what they were doing for Marvel, and then they still use the direct market, all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is different. Everybody has to become their own in Comicsgate. Everybody has to become their own little private business, their own small business, and work out shipping, work out printing.
And
So when are people?
Sorry, I was gonna say you mentioned having your warehouses and stuff. When did you get that?
A year and a half. Was it a year and a half ago? I think.
Yeah.
It became clear because of the PVCs. We were shipping out of our garage, and our garage, we have a 3-car garage. We can sell comics from there. But if we're making anything like that's bigger than a comic book, we need a place to put all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we got one little warehouse that housed all of the PVCs, and then also had an office space where we could handle, have a woman working there. And then when we started doing things like the boxes, these magnetic Storefolio boxes, which we copied what BCW was producing, but we had to make bigger ones. So we actually had to, construct these completely by ourselves, manufacture them by ourselves overseas. And these take up an amazing amount of room. We had 3,000 of these boxes. Where are you going to put them? So we got a warehouse the size of like an airplane hangar that's about a mile away from the first one. And we're running all of this stuff right out of those 2 locations.
Yeah.
And we're going to probably get bigger. Even my wife is like, can we get smaller? Can we just get back to selling comics? It's like, I still have to make a Salamandroid toy.
Well, the reason I asked is because, you're talking about figuring out business, and just the past 2 years, business itself, it's just been reactionary. Like, I would say if you go back pre-COVID, running a business, you could find some type of predictability there. And now there's not. And we talked about shipping. Cost of shipping is just like all over the place and just rising and rising and rising. Sourcing material, sourcing your boxes is getting harder and harder to do. So, if you're just kind of in this like warehouse for a year and a half, like you've just been in chaos. Like I can only imagine trying to figure it out. Like as someone who's been in business and then trying to figure out the past 2 years, and then someone stepping into this as a business, trying to figure this out within the past 2 years, I'm like, dude, you've got a crazy uphill battle.
It's a lot. I feel like I have 3 or 4 different jobs now, whereas before it was easy. Just drawing comics is easy. I wish all I had to do was sit down at my desk and draw, but I can't. I got all these different angles. I imagine, it's a little bit probably closer to what Todd McFarlane goes through. Because Todd McFarlane, I'm sure, would draw a lot more if he could, but he is handling an enormous empire, and I've got a tiny little fraction of what he has, but it's enough for me. It's plenty. I don't need any more on my plate, frankly. But business is crazy, and with the current downtrend, I think we're heading into a recession. It's going to be crowdfunding is going to be interesting. I'm already seeing some scary telltale signs of downturn in a lot of the campaigns that I was looking at the new Iconic Comics campaign, and I'm like, they got like a third of their backers on their new campaign, and I'm like, oh, okay, so we gotta, whatever we do next for All Caps Comics, we have to super hype it up. It's just got to be we gotta pull out all the tricks, all the stops to keep people excited, in order to do that. If people with gas prices twice what they used to be, groceries are more expensive, how do we sell comics in this the state of being? Find a way.
Yep.
Derpy Hodgick did ask, hey y'all, happy Saturday to the crew. Anything redeeming from the new 52? Uncle E, which of your DC works do you recommend? And P.S. just got blood honey.
Nice. Thank you for that. Redeeming from the new 52, Scott Snyder's Batman. Jeff Johns' Green Lantern.
Pretty good.
Collars.
Yeah.
I
I personally, for one of EVS's works from DC that I would recommend would actually be his work on Impulse. It wasn't his longest run, but that's one of my more favorite youth-oriented books I've ever read.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah,
I think there was a lot of good from the new 52. I mean, I know a lot of people like to hate on it for various reasons, but there were a lot of good stories. And you can tell there's a focus on trying to tell good stories, maybe different than what people were expecting or used to, but
I thought
Well,
the
and
first,
you know,
the
the
first,
other thing is it's not all Batman either.
Oh, yeah.
mean, the first
Amazingly
year or
enough,
two
it
of
was
New-
just a few books that had him in it.
yeah, the first year or two of New 52, I thought was pretty strong. I mean, there's been a lot of good stuff that coming out of the gate where they were really kind of resetting, retooling, trying some new things, trying some different things. It's just, I think the pace and the schedule, I mean, just from the outside, the pace and the schedule just couldn't really hold consistently for what they were trying to do. Titles were getting dropped left and right. You had some weird inconsistencies, cross titles. The start was strong. I think it didn't hold long term.
Yeah. Dan's talked about that too. Like
Yeah.
Dan talked about they had a plan pretty much for a year and a half. And then after that, the plan wasn't as solid. So
Yeah, New 52, to understand what was going on there, New 52 was Dan DiDio.
Yeah.
And then Rebirth was Jeff Johns.
Mm-hmm.
And there was all kinds of conflict in the office between those two, because Jeff could have had Dan's job anytime he wanted it, but he didn't want it. And Dan was fully cognizant of that. So, when Jeff came in and did Rebirth, and it was an enormous success, picking up after the slow decline of New 52, which was a success too. It did really well when it launched. Yeah, there was this bitter attitude about it, which I was not expecting to encounter. It was interesting.
Yeah. Wes and I did a video about that like a year ago, probably. Yeah.
Cool. I'll
Like
go
talking
find
about
it.
Rebirth. That's my favorite era, at least, is the last probably 10 years of comic books. Ideator says, thanks to Renee for the CGPR campaign that's working. I first discovered EVS due to the smears of bigotry, watched a bunch of streams. Where's the bigot?
Right here. Oh, you mean I'm
you're
not?
not living up to your reputation.
I don't know.
Hey,
I think
that's
on
my
this stream, it's
fucking
me at this
job.
point.
My goodness, God.
Okay, hold on a second.
The two people I guess who usually get called out for it, I'm still in their thunder today. What can I say? I was gonna say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, it's Rini. That's Irene Strakowski, formerly of it looks like Gwenpool, which we didn't know. Didn't know that.
She did Silk. I think that was her first work into
Silk. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Back
So,
in the
but
day.
Rini just shows up over here, and she's just fantastic. And they came after her. You can't join Comicsgate and not expect to have your entire world torn apart. We kind of talk about how it's like dying and becoming a vampire, because your old personage is going to rapidly, you got to let it go. If you had old relationships and old friendships in comics, they were never real. You got to let them go. Like, the new reality is Creature of the Night. I mean, that's what it feels like. The reward for that is a lot more money, a lot of control over your IP, freedom, creative freedom, and a new indie community. And I think Irene has discovered that. She just kind of came into my orbit. She'd already been in Comicsgate for like a year, I think, but she just fell into my orbit because I didn't know she was a mainstream pro. She is. So she's going to be on one of my big shows on Monday. Yeah.
Very nice. Ryan Wilson asks, EVS, did you change your art style over time? I felt like your X-Men art looked different, like Steve Dillon's. Also, tell us about working with Tom Taylor on Green Lantern.
I think I deliberately changed my style from Impulse to X-Men and Flash, because Impulse, you have to break into comics, you have to do whatever they tell you. I mean, it's just like, what job's available to me? Oh, I have to look kind of like Humberto Ramos. Okay, I can do that, and then just let me get my foot in the door. So, once that happened, I became who I really was over there and started drawing a little bit more realistically. I don't think my style changed too much from X-Men to Green Lantern. It was just an improvement. I just evolved as an artist. Working with Tom Taylor on Green Lantern was okay. It was a big kind of a blank experience. I remember having an incredibly odd political lunch with him in New York City. Meet Tom Taylor and Eddie Berganza, which is like somebody should have snapped
There's
a
a
photo
joke
of that
here.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. But it was fine. He blinks a lot like this when he talks to you, which is that's the one thing I remember about him. He's blinking. And he had I don't know. It was just Jeff pulled me off of that book. I got 3 issues done, and Jeff Johns has a way of doing that. I'll get halfway through a project that doesn't involve him, and he would just be like, dude, I got to yank you off of that because you got to do this instead with me. And that's what happened there. So.
And then Max Santiago says Ethan doesn't need more pie on his plate. Goodness, you've been laying off the pies.
I feel like I have, but I'm,
Once you get older, it gets harder to get back to where you were. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm definitely getting heavier. It is what it is.
Being in my mid 40s
so
is a
personal,
lot tougher than I thought it was going to be. Yeah.
Dude, I'm only in my mid 30s and I'm discovering that. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this sucks.
Back when I was in the military, it was easy because they made me do it. You know what I mean? Every year you got to go in for your little test. If you're not in shape, you get in trouble. So yeah.
No, I don't know what you mean.
No.
I'll never know what you mean.
Yeah.
Ethan,
You'll get drafted one day, maybe enough. No, you're too old, probably.
Yeah, just a little.
I'm thinking he's probably too old.
Doctor, do you have a little bit of a belly on
thank
you?
you to
Because you
everybody.
sound just like Penn Jillette. I picture you as Penn Jillette. I've never seen you, but do you have a tummy? Just say yes or no.
Oh yeah,
Cooch.
I'm kind of a fat fuck.
Penn is one of Doc is one of those rare individuals that looks like how he sounds.
Yes. I will agree with that one. And Niobe Comics says, buy exciting comics 17 to 20 published by Antarctic Press featuring Niobe at your local comic shop today. Niobe Outbreak on Kickstarter 3 weeks. That's very exciting stuff.
All right, Larry.
Definitely want to support small press comics and everybody in the independent comic scene. So that's exciting stuff. Definitely looking out for that in Kickstarter 3 weeks. So we're running down all the time. Let's talk about this saving Green Lantern thing. Obviously, Ethan, you work with Green Lantern quite a bit. You're probably the modern artist most well associated with the character. You had a lot of influence on some of the directions that Jeff Johns took, and I know you guys were creatively involved together, and the new different cores and stuff like that. I sent you the article. It kind of broke down a lot of the changes. There's no central power battery. There's a big sphere. Some lanterns all of a sudden became blue lanterns or purple or star sapphires and stuff like that. I think Simon Bass isn't a lantern anymore. He's a conduit between the new lanterns and the old lanterns, so he can speak to each other. And I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about the current state of Green Lantern, just from what I was able to send to you?
It sounds broken. It sounds painful. It sounds disorganized. It sounds complicated. Green Lantern's complicated enough. And when they do stuff like this, my attitude as a reader and as a creative person who might be working on something like that is, let's fix it again as soon as possible so that it makes sense. And stop breaking everything and stop bringing so much absolute misery and complexity to books that should be very simple. What is Green Lantern? Green Lantern is a group of 7,200 intergalactic space cops who all work under the same symbol. They answer to a group of blue elves that live on something called Oa, which is simply Oz, except OZOA, and they're the Emerald City. That's all. It's just some little Wizard of Oz ripoff. And that is it. And their job is to patrol the galaxy, to fight crime. They're lanterns because they bring light to the darkest corners of the universe. And they have an oath. They have a ring that works because they're not afraid of anything. They're uniquely fearless, and it works on willpower. And that's already way too much for somebody to understand. And you take it and you make it weirder than that. You break that apart into a million different pieces, and it becomes absolutely meaningless. So I hear that and I just go, enjoy not selling. Enjoy a time where Green Lantern fans will be unhappy with what you're doing. I endured part of that when they gave Hal Jordan his cloak and his long hair and his big glove for a little while. It was just shit, and people couldn't wait till it got back to normal. I mean, have fun upsetting people. Have fun disappointing people, with the Green Lantern book for a little while until you're forced to put it back the way it was. And that's what I will say. Thank you.
It was a strange follow-up to the Grant Morrison Green Lantern stuff that didn't feel like Hal Jordan or Green Lantern at all. Then next thing you know, he's not really in the series. It's all about John Stewart and Joe Mullins. I like John Stewart, but he's never really been a guy to carry a comic book on his own. And it was like Teen Lantern was everywhere, and everyone just stopped reading it. What did you think about that one? I know you were reviewing that kind of stuff, Gabe.
Okay, so from a story point of view, there was way too much focus on Joe Mullins in Thorne's run. And I think there's an opportunity to present Jon Stewart in a way where he can carry a story. I think he's got an interesting personality. I think there's plenty, and his demeanor fits right into the notion of space cop. Yeah, he fits that bill. Maybe even a little bit better than Hal. I mean, he's speaking blasphemy there, but I think he fits that bill a little bit better because he has that sort of military background. He has that sort of notion of following the chain of command and following the rules and trying to keep things in order because he comes from that military background. So I think there's a good fit there. Where I got lost with Thorne a little bit is he went way too deep on the deep cuts, way too many of them, going back decades in some cases for little tiny story pieces that nobody would ever remember in a million years unless you were the hardest of hardcore Green Lantern fans. That doesn't make sense to me that you would do that. That makes that story completely inaccessible. It brings in plot points that, unless you knew the source and the meaning and the background of that deep cut, is completely meaningless to the story. It's supposed to be important. You're making this plot point important, but because it's such a deep cut that nobody even remembers, it's not important. And so in a way, I mean, I hate to psychoanalyze Jeff because I think he's a decent guy at the heart of it. And I'm not trying to, cast aspersions or anything like that. It looked a lot like he was going through some sort of like imposter syndrome where he has to say, I've got Green Lantern now, and I'm going to show you how much I respect Green Lantern lore by putting in all these deep, complicated things in it to show you that there is no better Green Lantern expert than me. And in the course of doing that, it turned into a jumbled mess eventually. And then once he got word at the end that Dark Crisis was coming, Justice League number 75 is coming, where we're going to kill off Green Lantern, and Jeff is claiming publicly he didn't know about that. Well, first of all, that's a down mark against editorial because what they're saying is they have people with connected lines that are not talking to each other. And second, the way he ended it was just like, what is this mess? You've got this emotion sphere that looks like one of those lightning balls you get at Spencer's Gifts where you put your finger on it and the lightning comes in with the different colors and then everybody's a different lantern. It turned into a mess. I think he had the right intention and I think he gave it everything he had to try and create something new and that's felt big and different, but he just made it way too complicated and it didn't help the story at all and it just lost all accessibility for what he was trying to accomplish.
Or it was a message from DC Comics that Jeff Thorne is too much of a nobody and nobody bought his fucking comic. We don't even give a shit to tell him.
Maybe. Mr. DC Comics says, question, instead of trying to force diversity into shows like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, why don't they just explore different cultures, histories, and mythologies from around the world and make shows and movies about them? You know what's insane is if you look at Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, there's a ton of diversity when you think about fiction. You have different types of species of humanoids and all these things. You have demons and all kinds of stuff going in there. But it's kind of weird, EVS. I'm sure you know this better than I do, and you've been talking about it, where they have to take all of the issues going on with our world and shove them into Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, where they have their own internal issues and they have their own types of diversity already playing out. Like when the story, it just feels off.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, that's I talk about this all the time. Ask somebody else the same question. It's so boring coming from me.
You don't invite me to be quiet.
I'm going to say something that I kind of always say. I think intention matters. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier when they mentioned the whole Pride Hub thing and Pride books and why aren't they working? You're trying to take a romance book and mask it as a superhero book. And I think that's what we're doing, what we're seeing now. You're getting all these stories or brands that are already well established, that already have this built in. It's just not built in a way that certain people want to see it. So they're going to complain and they're going to try to adjust and shift and kind of ham fist. Oh, look, we did this. We hit this checkbox. We did that. And then your story's not about what your story should be about anymore. So I always feel like for me, because, I'm 34 years old. I grew up in a time period of watching movies from like the late 80s and 90s and, becoming an adult and hearing, these people don't get recognition. These people aren't like women. A lot of female are like, oh, females aren't represented well. I grew up with a ton of strong female characters in my life. Like I'm used to seeing Storm lead the X-Men. You can say Xena Warrior Princess. I had Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Let's go back to Alien. You know, like those things were there. So having people say like we need strong females now, I'm like, have you not picked up or read anything from the past 20 years? I don't know. I think it's a bunch of groups that want it a certain way.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad you went. My audience is yelling at me in the chat going, you're supposed to be preaching the gospel here on Wes's channel. You can abdicate your responsibility to others who don't feel as strongly as you do. Look, the whole thing was a power struggle from the very start. I mean, what this was a bunch of people who were radical activists and they're doing this all over the place. I'm actually putting together a show where I'm going to have people from the realm of science fiction and movies and television. We're all going to combine into some ultra mega Comicsgate kind of show to talk about how this is happening everywhere. And the key to getting in and getting this started is to announce that there's a problem that only they can fix. And that is how these activists get control. What is the problem in comics? Women are not being represented properly. There are not enough women here. And on top of that, okay, we got enough women. We're flooded with women. Okay, now people of color. There are not enough people of color. We need more people of color represented in comics. Okay, we did that. Gays. We need gays out the wazoo. Lots of gays. And now we're running out of trans people. There are only 16 trans people in the world, where we need to represent all of them. You know, it's like suddenly this is what they do to maintain their power. They need to do this. They announce there's a problem in whatever it is that you're interested in, and they're the only people to fix it. And then they make it a problem for everyone else who's just saying, why are we doing this? Why are we adjusting everything in comics, everything that we loved, to fit an audience that was always invited but didn't seem to be here of their own volition? What exactly is going on here? And before you know it, the thing that you love is absolutely unrecognizable. It's become political. It's become exclusionary. It's become everything that it says that it's meaning to not be. It's happened to comics thoroughly. Everybody's noticed it. Some people like it because it suits their politics, but most people don't like it. And most people are either living with it or complaining about it and trying to fix it. And that's where we are now. It's happening in movies, TV. It's happening in knitting. It's happening in bird watching. There's an SJW element in the bird watching community.
I have come to the conclusion that it's because all of us, we're always just way too fucking polite. And well, I mean, obviously that's clear because we didn't tell them to fuck off in the first place. But the whole point, what I really mean is, when we were all accused of being terrible things and that there was this problem and that problem, we didn't say yes and we like it, fuck off. We accepted their premise in the first place instead of owning their premise and just being like, yeah, you know what, whatever you think we are, yeah, we're that. Okay, you don't want to. We're terrible people. We're really, really terrible fucking people, and you shouldn't want to associate with us. Go away. Well, that would have been the better way to do it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, become so aggro. I
feel like Doc's always been this.
Like, holy shit!
I started laughing because Doc was like, "We haven't told people to fuck off." I'm like, "That's all I've heard you do for the past 2 years."
I like it. I like the new Doc.
Well, the problem we didn't tell them early enough to fuck off.
Well, the main problem is that none of them are creative people, and that's why the problem that they had to manufacture was something that had to be was a social problem, because they can organize things socially. That's what they do. They're organizers. They can do that. When it comes to actually putting something creatively into play, they cannot do that, and that is why there's so much. There are a million reasons why these comics are not resonating, but that's the main one. Their main objective is to just do enough of what they said they were going to do to maintain their power, and that's about it. And none of them can. There's nothing from that. What was the last really great comic book story that you're going to remember 10 years from now to come from comics? It's just seems like a creative desert out there to me. Personally, everybody's afraid of offending each other. I'm not afraid of offending any of you gentlemen, any of the 5 of you, and I'm sure I've already done it 16 times. I just think people need to, creative people need to be able to be creative and not worry about who feels included, who feels excluded, and all of these manufactured fake concerns that never existed before 7 years ago.
Well, and even if you include it, then you have to be that person, that type of person, or else then you're going to get lambasted for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of remember being young and saying Todd McFarlane, this black character, it's just kind of weird. And then every time he turns himself to look like a decent person, he's white, and it's just, I remember being edgy and thinking like, I don't know if he should be doing this. But now it gets, you need sensitivity readers for every goddamn thing you write or do.
Absolutely.
I mean, isn't writing observing and then putting it in like a fictional idea,
we need insensitivity readers where we're like,
Get 'em
you know
back.
what, you really, really, really need to add more offensive shit right about here in this book. And you know what, right here, when you were having this argument between these two characters, this one didn't cut this one to the goddamn bone with an insult. You need to go back and make it more hurtful. That's what we need. We need insensitivity readers.
We
Maybe
do have
so. I mean, at least for some things, maybe.
We do have a few more.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Wes.
We do have a few more super chats. We got Common Set says, if Cy Spurrier won round robin, do you think he could have fixed the Green Lantern? Well, first of all, that would have only been a limited digital first series. And I think it was Green Lantern Conspiracy Theory. So it would have been limited series. He wouldn't have gotten control of the Green Lantern. But if Cy Spurrier became the man behind Green Lantern, I think he would only make it worse. That's just my impression of Cy Spurrier.
He would have did his discount bin Warren Ellis bullshit some more.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the Alan Scott story?
I think that was James Tynan, though, wasn't it?
No,
Or was he the
round
Alan
robin.
Scott story?
That was the Alan Scott Area 51 story, I thought.
I think.
Yeah, conspiracy
so.
theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Alan Scott's just off on the side somewhere. I don't think anybody would even notice.
Yeah, that wouldn't have fixed Green Lantern. The doc says like the smash button. Absolutely. We're over 320 likes right now in the video, so definitely let people know we're having a good conversation right here, having a fun time talking about comic books and pop cultures. We've got Rodney Sanders II. EVS, thoughts on Superboy Prime versus the Green Lanterns? How much input did you have? Did you also create Iron Sodom yet?
No, that was all Jeff Johns. I had nothing to do with any of that. And Sodom Yat already existed. Was he an Alan Moore character? I seem to remember. Am I misremembering? But that wasn't me either.
I'm checking on it. Sodom Yat, created by Alan Moore.
Alan Moore. I like the way sodomy is in his name. That always
It leaves an impression.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
I know that was deliberate, Alan.
And Monster Mania says, longtime comics fan, got my son and grandson into it later. Watched heroes I love be torn down and replaced. Creators told me not to buy their books, so I took their advice and quit. EVS and CG pulled me back in. That's what I say.
At the same time, though.
If DC and Marvel aren't cutting it for you, you got to find your comic book fix somewhere. Some people find it, and obviously manga is blowing up right now. People are turning to the crowdfunded scene, independent comics, but there's so much content out there. EVS, there's something there for everybody. Eventually, you'll find your sweet spot. You don't have to read DC and Marvel.
No, you don't. And there, but I mean, there needs to be an alternative in any case, even if you do like it. And there's not going to be allowed to be an alternative, really, to the PC comics that are out there now, unless we make them ourselves. So, I encourage people to somewhere out there.
Bad News Bears. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I don't see a comment here, but I really appreciate it. I guess we've been going on long enough. We kind of covered most of the topics at this point. We're at about 2.5 hours. Maybe it's time to start recommending some comic books. Ethan, do you have any comic books that you would like to recommend to the viewers today?
I want to recommend Irene Strakowski's Fiendish. I want to recommend, and Fiendish 2, these are all crowdfunded comics. I want to recommend Kenneth Rocafort. He's got a book called Groken, which is the best work he's ever done. He's about to launch Groken 2 on the 15th. Hopefully he'll do it on my channel if he's not afraid of being canceled. Let me see. What else should I recommend? Let's just stick with those right now. Fiendish and Groken. Great. Two great comics.
So Fiendish closed up on Indiegogo, but I believe it's available on e-commerce. So she has a website, right?
I think so, but Fiendish 2 is also launching, and Fiendish 1 will be available there this month, I believe. No, is it? I might be wrong about it. Might be launching in August, come to think of it, but it's going to be launching soon. Sign up for it.
Yeah, if you were unaware who iRead was, but you want to go support her after some of the stuff that's happened, you do not have to wait very long. Fiendish 2 will be out very soon. Who else we got? Yule, what do you guys recommend down at Fantastic Comics in Berkeley, California?
I recommend Milo Manara's Gulliveria or whatever. I can't show anymore. I had this right in the. You walk in the door and it was facing you, and I'm like, I got to take that out. Even I can't have that there.
This is a family show, Yule. It's a family show.
It's a family show. Next week, if your store was able to get it, Penguin Random House is doing these hardcover and softcover first looks at or I should say, look at the first 2 years of a certain comics. They did Spider-Man, Captain America, and Black Panther. It's even got letters pages in it, and it's pretty awesome. There you go.
Very nice. Common Sense says support comic books that do want you to buy their books. Help Ken Gehring and the Book of Gogor on Kickstarter. Has 13 days left. We can't fail him again.
Gogor.
Book of Gogor.
Gogor. It's it was an Image comic. They did like 5 or 6 issues, and it's very good. It's got really sweet art. I agree.
Very nice. Gabe, what do you recommend this week?
Okay, I got a list here. Okay, so first shameless plug for all things DC. Follow Weird Science DC Comics. For Marvel, follow Weird Science Marvel Comics.
Is that you? That's
yes.
your what? Oh,
well, I don't know the website, but I'm one of the main contributors. And then for everything else, Dynamite, Zenescope, Mad Cave, Source Point, go to comicalopinions.com. That's my site. So I'm going to recommend Vampirella Strikes #2 from Dynamite, simply because they're doing some interesting things with exploring the nature of pain and how that makes people make bad choices. And even though it's a Vampirella comic, it's actually kind of nuanced writing, so I like that a lot. On the Kickstarter scene, go to Blue Fox Comics. They're coming out with a Kickstarter for something called At Last the Light. It's a Victorian era ghost story involving a lighthouse, and it was really well executed, well done. So that campaign's coming up soon. On the DC side of things, the best book I can recommend, and it's a mild recommendation, is Flashpoint Beyond #2. It's okay. I'm still not sold on why it's needed in the first place, but it's okay. And on the Marvel side of things, I'm going to recommend Amazing Spider-Man #3, simply because I like what they're doing with Tombstone. I didn't like the Little Lonnie flashback, but the current day Tombstone is very intimidating, very threatening. I like that a lot. And the second Marvel book I'll recommend this week is Thor #26, simply because it's Thor and Hulk smashing each other. And if you want just fireworks and Saturday morning cartoon level writing, but really good visuals, that's a good one for you. Thor #26.
Very nice. Brian Rickard says Morrison's Green Lantern run is underrated. I think the art by Liam Sharp was fantastic, at least for the first 12 issues, but it was a little too abstract for my take on Green Lantern personally, but I know a lot of people did enjoy that series. All right.
I don't like doing acid before I read my comics.
Well, Doc, what do you recommend this week? You recommend Marauders and Legion of X?
Oh, yeah, totally. No, yeah. If by the way, if you're reading Legion of X and you read Way of X, you already read Legion of X. It's the same fucking story, exactly the same fucking story.
Is it a continuation?
No, it's literally they're just redoing it, but instead of Onslaught, this time it's some fucking Iraqi mischief god that's literally playing the exact same role as same role that Onslaught did the last time. Same mystery.
All right, Doc, what are you actually recommending?
I'm gonna second Gabe on ASM number 3. It's, you know, I'm enjoying seeing them kind of reestablish some of the villains, especially Tombstone. They had kind of, during Nick Spencer's run, they had kind of fucking chumped him out, made him too much of a pussy. So they're making him a badass again. The Artist Elite Primer Blue, for since Drew's not here again to promote that, I am going to recommend picking that up. That's the second of their 2 primer books. They did the Primer Red last week, and
The
Primer
covers
Blue.
connect also.
Yes, and the covers connect. Oddly enough, I'm going to recommend the Cyberforce 30th anniversary reprint of number 1, just because it was a great fucking comic, and it's still a great comic now, but you know, you can get basically a reprint of it.
There'll be an omnibus soon too.
The omnibus was the Kickstarter that we're waiting for.
Yeah, and then the stores were able
They're
to
gonna
get them,
they're gonna do the store version of it. So I think the omnibus comes out this fall. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Otherwise, I recommend still spending your money on old comic books, because there was a lot of stuff that came out this week, and most of it was shit.
Is Josh there?
Yeah.
What are you recommending this week?
Not much. I'm gonna second Flashpoint Beyond. I know Gabe said it was a light recommendation, but for me, it's just I came into this story with the same mindset of I don't understand why we're getting this, but it's a competent story, which is not common these days. And even though it's a slow burn, it's well written. So definitely pick it up. And then I picked up Aquaman Andromeda, which is Ram V. I have not had the chance to read it yet, but I've heard good things about it. So I look we'll see.
Lots of flowery language. Lots of flowery language.
You're not the biggest fan of his style of writing, and I tend to appreciate him a little more than you do. So it could be a taste thing there. But that is literally it as far as what's hitting shelves. So and then I agree with Doc. Go pick up old comics. This guy right over here has a lot of really good Green Lantern and Flash stuff that he put out. I hate calling that old comics, but they're not current comics. So we'll just put it that way. But it's good stuff. Please read it.
I will have my best of the week video tomorrow with Drew from Comics Elite. And I do want to say thank you very much to our special guest, Ethan Van Sciver from Comics Aficionados Pro Secrets. Do you have anything that people should be looking out for on your YouTube channel or anywhere else that you're going to be doing?
No.
Wait, you said
this was
tonight,
it.
right?
I don't know. You have an interview or something going on? You said you had a big panel on Monday, maybe?
I'm working so hard. I don't have anything really lined up social media wise. I'm just continue to watch the show. I do as many live streams as I can do, and they're becoming fewer and fewer. But thanks to everybody who's been supporting Cyberfrog. Really,
I do have a question for Ethan though. With the way you're doing this, do you know what even fucking day it is?
I know. I know.
It's like
Saturday,
without looking at a calendar, are you aware what day it is? Oh,
no,
it's just because the kids are home.
The kids are home. Yeah, that's how I know it's the weekend. Otherwise we'd be upstairs packing boxes and taking them to the post office, which is what we always do. So, yeah, I mean it's
Very
crazy.
nice.
Time goes by so quick, doesn't it, Doc? The older you get, it just day after day.
Ethan, I do have a quick question for you too, as well. If for whatever reason this is people's first introduction to you, or they're not familiar with your work, is there something that they can go get their hands on right now that you'd recommend that you've done?
Well, I mean, it depends. If you're interested in my Marvel work, which was brief, I mean, go get E for Extinction by Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley. I was fortunate enough to do one issue in that. It was my first issue. It's not bad. It's not good. But it'll get you hooked on Grant Morrison's X-Men, which I think nailed the whole thing. Nailed the X-Men. DC Comics, go get Green Lantern Rebirth or get Sinestro Corps War. Those are probably the best things that I did at DC. And pick up Cyberfrog Blood Honey from my eBay store. That's my newest project is Cyberfrog. And go get the first one. Or anything else Cyberfrog related.
Very nice.
Well,
Old
thank you.
school. Comics says, great show, gents. I'm enjoying Hell Cop and Reich's thirst for vengeance. And I think Gabe for suggesting Project Superpower. It's a good series from Dynamite. And thank you to everyone. And definitely congratulations to my friends Tim Lib, Doug Ernst, and Mark Pellegrini for the success of the Black Hops Common America. My goodness, I forgot what the Doug's book.
Soul Finder.
Soul Finder crossover book over on
Jesus
Kickstarter.
Christ,
You haven't
Doug's gonna
supported them
punch
yet.
you.
It's fine. And I will have Tim on the channel, I believe, on Monday. And then I also have Gabe Altave is going to be on the channel sometime this week. So thank you very much. We will see you next week here on the Comics Aficionados.
Bye.